It appears that we have returned.
Hello again.
Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome back.
So sorry about that. Some technical difficulties with the router.
Wi-Fi cannot bring us down.
There you go.
That was a first.
So there you go. It happens. Look, we're doing this from Derek's apartment. First of all, thank you for doing all of this.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We will go ahead and pick up right where we left off. Anyway, welcome to those of you. Again, we're back. We're the weather might have something to do with this, dude. But anyway, we do have a couple of things we want to talk about as far as future shows are concerned. Next week is a big show. Next week we will have James O'Connor on. Really looking forward to that. We also are planning. I talked to Ken Luther. He wants to do a show where we go to his place while they're making barrel drums. So that might be kind of fun.
Perfect, yeah.
Yes.
That was one of the things I pitched.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That works really well.
We're also trying to work something out where we might do the week before, or maybe even the Thursday before the first game, maybe, from the stadium. So that might be kind of cool. We'll see what happens. There's a lot going on.
If nothing else, we could camp out on the futsal court or something.
Right, exactly. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of stuff in a little bit. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is.
7:48.
Chad, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
Great, man. Thank you. Chad Wosniak, ladies and gentlemen, local soccer coach, collegiate high school, correct?
Correct.
So thank you for joining us. A little bit of late notice. So Derek, thank you for setting that up.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So let's just start. I mean, we've never met. So if you just tell us a little bit about yourself in general.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's talk soccer. Soccer has been a huge part of my life. Played, all my life. Came from the St. Louis area.
Okay.
Came to Bellarmine. Played soccer at Bellarmine.
University. Okay. What years were that?
It was 94 to 98.
Okay.
It was college back then, believe it or not.
Real? Okay. Yeah. Bellarmine College.
Yeah,
That's right.
And after that, met my wife there. Played a little bit of semi-pro with an A-League team in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Came back into Louisville and worked at River City, where kind of Derek and I met on the indoor pitch. Long time ago.
We can't wait to hear some Derek stories.
Correct.
God.
Nonetheless, when I was in college, started coaching a little bit.
Okay.
And then right out of college, got into the real world and started coaching club soccer quite a bit with LSA.
Okay. And LSA is for people, because I have some people back east.
Louisville Soccer Alliance.
Okay.
Run by Mike Hayes.
Okay.
And that was my first club soccer gig. Did that for several years. Then was married, and kind of the traveling with soccer and a wife and got a little bit much. So took a few years off. Tanya and I had our first child, Samantha, who is now 13.
Wow. Okay.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, right, Derek. So when and now Taylor is 11, my other one. So when we had our first child, I kind of told Tanya that if our kids, which Tanya also played soccer at Bellarmine, decided that they ever wanted to play soccer, I would get back into coaching. And so that happened. So my oldest started playing when she was 3 or 4. Played a couple of the rec leagues, and I got back into coaching and coached her at Jabanon for a few years, and then in that transition I was going back to school to teach. So I was teaching first grade at collegiate.
Okay.
And then the head soccer coach at the time moved out to Colorado, and he asked me to coach, and so I started coaching. This is now my 5th year coaching at collegiate, and then also coached her at Jabanon, and then she's now at Kentucky Fire Juniors. And my youngest has now started playing over there again, and so I'm now coaching her as well. So it's a lot of fun coaching, the younger girls, right. And then you go into the high school aged boys, and just knowing all of the differences, that not only gender differences, but the age differences.
Sure.
But soccer's been my life. I love it, and going from, I remember my first year coaching at collegiate. My daughter was playing 6v6 out at Champions Park.
Sure.
And we had a Saturday morning high school practice that was very intense, and it was an 8 a.m. practice, and her game was over there like 11 o'clock. So I go over there after this, and I'm coaching with Tabani at the time, and we use cones to set up our formations and show the boys what we're doing. And we head over to Champions Park, where I'm coaching my oldest daughter at the time, who I believe was 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
And so I get my cones out, and I'm setting them all out in the formation for a 6v6 soccer game, right?
Right.
And as I'm telling them, this is the goalkeeper. Not talking position numbers or anything. This is the goalkeeper. This is one of the little girls looks at me and says, "Coach Chad, you make the greatest flower soccer cones I've ever seen."
Nice.
And that was the
because
moment.
that's what matters.
That's correct. And that was the moment it hit me. I was like, this is completely different for these kids. So having to adapt and adjust has been a lot of fun. And so for the last 5 years, coaching 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. And then, coaching high school boys at a pretty high level, and then coaching, them going right next door to the next field to coach, putting a different hat on, has been a lot of fun.
So how many years total have you been coaching?
Oh my gosh, probably 20, 22, 23 years.
Okay, so let me go back to when you started coaching. Did you have a high school certificate teacher yet, or was it?
No.
No, what was your first gig teaching was?
At collegiate.
Collegiate.
Yeah.
All right, so you're volunteering basically.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Take it. So that's going back to around 1990.
I graduated college in '98, and I started coaching my junior. I was coaching a middle school Catholic school team. And it was St. Agnes actually.
Okay.
Started coaching them, and it just kind of stuck. And then started running the soccer camps over at Mockingbird. It was kind of my summer job.
All right.
And it just fell in love with it. Teaching kids the game and being able to stay involved myself.
So, going back to let's say like whatever leagues or however competition was set up for high school teams back then, what was it like? I mean, were there different conferences? Was it how organized was it?
High school soccer back then.
Yeah.
Man, I just came out of I came from a high school right around St. Louis.
Right.
And the school that I went to was kind of known as a soccer school, and we played some of the powerhouses in St. Louis. I was actually on the Illinois side of the river, and we had our local conferences there. I don't know how Louisville soccer in the high school community was back then.
Okay.
Because I had just come to Bellarmine, and as any college student, I had blinders on. Bellarmine was what I did. That's where I found out about the St. X Trinity rivalry. Right. And, one of the Friday nights in the fall, my freshman year, I hear, we're going to this high school football game. And I'm like, we're in college. Why are we going to a high school football game? But then you find out why. It's a big deal. So I don't know. I didn't know the landscape. Now, as I was in college, I got to know some of the local kids that were in high school, and the kids were getting recruited, and you went out and watched a couple of their games, but still wasn't really in. I didn't know the high school scene too much. Okay. Really until I started at collegiate, which was I've been now. This is my 9th year.
Right.
And I kind of got into the high school scene, and yeah.
You only missed me by 2 years seeing me as the mascot in the St. X Trinity game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a big deal,
right?
Because of Matt.
Absolutely.
So right now, let's say
I rocked that tiger suit. Couldn't see a damn thing, but man, it was fun.
So right now, if you could tell us a little bit about how it's structured right now.
Sure. So the KHSA has different regions. So collegiate is in Region 7, which is brutal. As far as high school soccer.
What are some of the teams?
St. X, Trinity, Ballard, Manual. You go on and on and on. KCD, all these schools that are.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
I mean, we've had the last 3 years we've had 3 to 4 of the top 5 or 6 teams in the state. And unfortunately, only one team gets to advance past that region.
Okay.
It's always the 2 Jefferson County teams in the first round.
It is crazy. Yeah. And so it makes for a lot of fun. Yes, sir. Fun is an interesting word, I guess.
Right. Well, it sounds like it's really competitive.
It's extremely competitive,
and that makes it fun. And that's part of the game.
I would rather play a 3-2 game than a blowout game any day of the week.
Sure.
And most of those games, when you're talking, the Region 7 teams, are pretty competitive.
Okay. And you talked about right now you're also involved with a couple of the academy teams and tell us a little bit about that. Like I said, for the folks, there's people that are not from this area, maybe a little bit about how that's structured right now, how vibrant it is, enrollment, things like that.
We have a kid that's at collegiate, that's also going to be doing the Louisville City Academy.
Right.
Elijah Winder, who actually was rostered with the team last year. He signed an amateur deal.
I remember that. Was he the first one? Was he the first one?
Yeah, he was the first one.
Awesome.
And he's now a junior at collegiate, so he's still at collegiate. and he's going to start training again next week with the team.
That's awesome.
And so, you'll talk a little bit more about that with Mario tonight, of how that's going to look and how it's going to work. I think it's kind of still up in the air. They want it to work, and they want it to, and we're going to be his biggest supporter and biggest fan,
Right.
but also at the same time provide him, the academic side of things, for him to pursue his goals.
Right.
And I think that's going to kind of be what kids kind of aspire to do.
Right.
And that's what this USL2 team is going to do. It's going to provide these local kids, and trust me, there's a ton of local talent.
I was just
here.
going to ask you.
Oh,
about
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's really unreal,
Yeah.
the overall talent in the Louisville area. That in club soccer, there's a lot of different clubs, and kids go one way or the other, and this will hopefully some of these kids will go gravitate towards the Louisville City Academy team, in hopes of still also helping their club team one way or the other.
Okay.
And I think it what their vision is, that it's a win-win for everyone.
Sure.
Giving these kids that are some of your more skilled, that have the visions of playing at that level, giving them those opportunities while also helping the club that they're currently with.
Right.
And however that's going to work out.
Right, and that's one of the things that I've been not concerned. It's not even concerned, but interested in. I'm going back to when I grew up in the 70s and 80s. My hometown was a powerhouse in high school soccer. There were academies. There was a couple of them, but the academy system, because of the lack of maturity professionally in the United States, really wasn't a whole lot.
Right.
It was more extracurricular, if that makes any sense. That's not the case anymore.
Right.
And I'm wondering about the excitement there. First of all, from a coaching perspective, we'll talk about coaching. The ability to work with someone like Mario, who is very obviously going to be sympathetic, but also very energetic about youth programs, regardless of academy. The scholastic and collegiate system in this country is never going away. It's never going to be Europe. That's never going to happen.
Right.
So there's going to have to be synergy, and you want to work with people that are happy to do that. First of all, that's got to be kind of a joy to be able to do that.
Oh, it's awesome. Mario and I have had several conversations. We met and we talk quite often about some of the players in the city, and what their visions are a little bit. And I've even had him. He was able to come out to one of my collegiate practices, last fall, and just run a session. And to see him, the way that he's energized and the way that he does things, for the local coaches,
Right.
He's gone around to a lot of the clubs, if not all of them,
Right.
and run some sessions. And to have some coaches learn from him and talk with him about what they're hoping to do, it's just such a huge benefit for this community. The coaches that you see about it, the articles about Louisville City bringing all these coaches, and you talk about Hackworth and James and Mario and Tabani and these guys, and the list goes on and on. It is phenomenal.
Right.
And for those coaches that are involved with LouCity to be able to reach out to the community to help these clubs and to help these players, I mean, it's just it's fantastic.
Right, and I got also talking about the kids too. One of the things about having a local professional team now, where we didn't have that when I was growing up, there's something to aspire to. Now, the first part of that is have the kids that at your school or the kids that that your teams have competed against. Is the LouCity thing starting to permeate through them a lot? I mean, it's only been 5 years. So is this something that they're like LouCity? I mean, I hope you get a chance to play at that level, maybe that you didn't see before, or maybe you did. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Okay.
I think it brings something for them to, like you said, aspire to do. Mario's worked very closely with many of the high school kids in here over the last year or so. Training with, kind of inviting some kids, having some open tryouts and things like that, and they've gone out and it's the world to these kids. Yeah. It's wonderful for them to go out and train in that environment. Not only with the coaching that they're getting there, but also they see day to day or not day to day whenever they train the talent that they're up against. And what they need to do to get better. And just playing against the best. Playing against a better player is going to make you a better player.
Right,
so.
right. Now, also, but also, I mean, obviously, we're all LouCity supporters, and we talk about LouCity, but you're a high school soccer coach, and you want the best for your program too. So I was wondering how this involvement, through the community with LouCity, how that helps your program out.
It's huge, and we had a direct impact with Elijah. He played for us in the fall. but also was able to train with LouCity. And I had many conversations with Mario about that. And why wouldn't I want him training with professional soccer players? And so when we got into some preseason conditioning and things like that with collegiate, I was working very closely with Mario and with Elijah to talk about. Mario would send me a text and say, he had a bear of a workout this morning. He's going to be exhausted, and so I would talk to the but we talked to the boys, and we would say, we all understood this is the first the first that this has happened, and it's a unique situation, and that if he's at practice and needs to go a little easier or something, there's a reason. It's not that he's lazy. He's been through something.
You just mentioned something that I hadn't thought about a lot, but is very true. If you're talking about a system where they're not working with each other. I'm going back a bunch of years ago. The guys, I used to work a little bit with baseball team, and we had a kid who was a pitcher. He was a very good pitcher, and he came. He pitched. It was a club team, and he came in and it was awful. He didn't tell us that he had pitched with his school team that afternoon. His coach is at the game.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there going, Coach so-and-so, all you had to do was say something.
Right.
Now he's all pissed off because we're throwing the kid. And it's like, if somebody had said something, we wouldn't have done that.
Right.
And it just and it led to some very, very uncomfortable situations. But that was fairly common in that and not just in baseball. So it sounds like, I don't want to speak for anybody, it sounds like the level of communication, it's not just about having the kid play at one side or the other. It's about making the kid better and making the culture better in this area. Am I speaking out of turn?
No, you're exactly right. And now we're talking one player, right? And so maybe the communication was a little easier because it was one kid. But from LouCity's standpoint to the communication with me and our program, it was top notch. And I truly believe that as this develops, it will it'll be the same thing. You'll talk to Mario tonight, and he'll give you some more insight on those things. But they really wanted what was best for the kid,
right.
As we did as well. And so we were able to communicate with that. Like he's got tired legs today. They LouCity had a rough game this past weekend. So there was some training that was heavy,
right.
And so we would communicate, and we would have talks with our kids to say, hey, listen, when he's here, he may go a little lighter than some of you, but this is because he was training with men this morning,
right.
In a pro environment, and when he's here, and to his credit, to Elijah, we had a good conversation. We said, you come to practices, you come to everything,
absolutely,
and if there's a time that you've trained a little bit hard for them, that morning or whatever, we'll discuss that. But your presence, just to be a leader, to let the kids know that we're working together with this. It just worked out. It worked out pretty beautifully, and it was a nice thing from LouCity's standpoint to work with collegiate, and from his standpoint, he's getting the high school experience, and I know people say, oh, it's high school soccer. Right? I get that, but from the social experiences and from in our high school soccer at collegiate and some of these other schools in the local area, it's pretty good soccer.
Yeah,
You're talking just about everybody that's playing at those schools is playing at a high level club soccer,
right.
And training with a lot of those guys are training with LouCity to develop for this academy thing. So it's like I said earlier, it's a win-win situation.
And with the lack of communication, it's the kid that gets hurt because it all of a sudden it turns into a competition. I'm going to go back to something else. We're talking about teaching here. I know it's not athletics, but these guys know that I used to teach high school band. I taught drum corps. There would be kids in a couple of the bands that I taught who got involved with competitive drum corps. The drum corps would tour during the summer all over the country. You were happy to train a kid that was good enough to get into one of these groups. But I'm not going to mention, I would love to mention names because you're a jerk. But there was one cat who was all about the high school band, and it was all about him. He cared more about himself than the kids in the program, the teachers, anything. And if we had several kids that the local corps in art was the cadets, and they were from Bourbon County at the time, world champions year after year after year. Kids wanted to go march here. Well, you going to be at band camp? Well, championships is I don't care, and he made it really personal.
Right.
And these poor kids would sit there like, we could do both if you all just talk to each other. And it sounds like that's the things that's starting to happen here, which is great to hear because that's very important to me as a supporter of the game.
Right.
I want to back up a little bit with collegiate high school. What's a little? Tell me about the season itself and the length of it, amount of games, playoffs, things like that. What's that like?
It's kind of crazy as far as high school soccer.
Depends on what region.
Right.
Yeah.
Collegiate's a small school. We compete in what's called the All A Classic, which is the small school state championships, which happen really quickly in the season. So, fall sports for the KHSA start around July 15th.
Right.
We usually push it back about a week or so because most of the kids are coming off of state regional competitions, and a break is good. I am a big advocate of take some time off. It's okay.
Right.
And we start playing games mid-August, and then it goes all the way through. The state finals are the first weekend usually in November. So it's a long, rigorous season with a lot of games.
Right.
And when we play in this All A thing, we have to schedule 7 games that have not happened yet, and 7 games that only happen if you continue to win.
And they're like back to back.
That's
like
crazy.
days too. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a little crazy. How many games before you have to worry about that?
So it's pretty early.
That's bizarre.
And so there's 7 games that I have to schedule, and I have to hold off on our schedule because those also count towards your number of games that you can play in a season. So if you were to lose, then now I'm on the phone with all these other high school coaches trying to pick up extra games, right?
You remember when Southern they play like a 25 game season and they played no tournaments?
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah, and so we've been fortunate to have advanced past that to where we've gone to the All A state tournament. The final 8 is in Frankfurt. And so we've advanced to that and actually won the state title the last 4 years.
Awesome.
Which is great. And people don't think that's a big deal, but it's a really
sure,
big
it's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
It's like
you're the best in your region, competing against the class of kids that from a. Go ahead, I'm finish your story. I got a couple other questions.
And so we talk every year about these are our goals, and that is certainly one of the goals, and we don't overlook that. We know that if collegiate's not doing it, there's another team that's doing it that is ecstatic, and so the All A state championship is goal number 1. The KHSA state championship is goal number 2, and our goal is to get both of those done in the same year.
Awesome.
We've yet to do it,
Right.
yet we'll we're working towards that. So
I guess the other, do they do it by school size or the amount of or the amount of competitors? Because I know that there's some states it's about how many kids you can have on the team, and they include schools. Like if you I don't remember I don't want to say it was Illinois. I forget. One of the states in the Midwest you can have X amount of people in the school, but your program can only be so big. You can only have so many kids on the team.
What do you roster? 18.
Yeah, you can roster up to 24 for the tournaments.
Okay.
But in Kentucky, it's based on school size.
Okay, and
I believe the cutoff is 600 students.
Okay.
So 600 and below. Collegiate, we have 227 in the upper school, in the high school. So we're one of the lower ends of the small schools. So yeah, it's based on the number of students.
And I guess the other question: do they do the clock things like the collegiate thing, or do they do it like?
That's another whole thing. We play now. There's talks now. Like we've received some surveys and things from the KHSA about what works and what doesn't work. Right. So high school soccer is 40-minute halves. Mm-hmm. Why?
40-minute halves.
40-minute halves. Soccer.
When did that change?
It's been like that ever since I've been there. So it's 40-minute halves.
When I played, it was 45s
with a clock.
Yeah.
With a clock that runs down.
Okay.
So when the horn sounds, when the clock hits 0, that's it. There's no extra time.
Right.
So there's a lot of discussions about that right now.
Okay.
And I would strongly urge make it like everything else. These kids are high school kids. They can play 45-minute halves. And I'm okay if official keeps the time on the field.
Right.
What soccer does do that,
you see,
right?
At the high school level, I would still be okay. I would want to try and get, regardless of whether it's an academic league or an academy league, I would like to try and get rules as close to what we do internationally as possible. Mm-hmm. But I would still be way okay with more substitutions in high school. I would still be okay with that. I don't know how you.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Because you want kids to play. High school, you're still dealing with the academic thing, and you're still dealing with the school pride thing, and they're not professionals. And you want kids to be involved. The whole idea is to get, 50. Is it 9th through 12, or is it?
We are a JK through 12. So
okay, so you have 7th and 8th graders as well.
Yeah. So we're hovering around 630 students total for the whole school. Right. And collegiate, I'll give them a huge plug. Collegiate's a school where we invite kids to do other things. almost it could be a blessing and a curse.
Sure.
They almost get involved in too many things.
Yes.
But
we'll talk
but
about that.
yeah. But it's but as far as the school itself and the involvement, we pitch, come to collegiate. You can play soccer in the fall. You can do whatever you want to do in the fall. You can also be in the spring music or the musical, the play. You can play this. You can run cross. We had a kid that was an all-state player this year, Cal Ledoux, who also ran cross country, and also is in the strings.
Exactly.
And also scored a perfect 36 on his ACT.
Jeez
so here's a kid that comes to a school like this.
Yeah, I did that. It took 6 times.
and he's involved, but
yeah, combined, exactly.
they're not just doing one activity. And I know we can talk about youth sports with that thing, but with school at collegiate, really, most of these kids that are playing some sort of sport at collegiate are also doing something else.
Right.
And
they should be.
Correct. Right.
Now here's the balance, though. The balance. They're talking from the arts perspective. When I was doing the band director thing, we had kids that did all kinds of stuff. We had one kid who was a bass drummer, number 1 bass drummer for 3 years. He was the captain of the Olympic crew team, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Jeff Kopacki. And we had other people that did all other things too. I mean, kids that they were going to friggin' college. They were in this advanced program in their junior year to get like their doctorate by the time they were 24. So it's some insane stuff, They should be allowed to mix in between.
Yeah.
At the same time, you still have program requirements.
Correct.
Challenge the balance. I mean, you want them to do both, but at the same time, you don't want a kid showing up. Like I'm going to throw one more story at you. I'm sorry. I'm being an idiot. This is about you guys. I apologize. I had 2 kids in ensemble. They were great for 3 years. And the senior year, they're like, "Oh, we can't make concert tonight because we have to study." What are you, nuts? See ya. Enjoy the rest of your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With a smaller school especially, you want them involved, but you still have to maintain a talent level, right?
It's pretty simple with regards to me. I tell these kids, do as much as you want, but if you're doing 5 or 6 things at the same time, you are not committed to those 5 or 6 things.
Absolutely.
A commitment's different. You're involved in those 5 or 6 things. You got to be committed to 1 or 2 of them. And if you're doing things that are going to conflict with each other, as far as the school, you talk to your teachers, you talk to your coaches, you talk to your parents, and communicate. We roll our schedule out pretty early. So as far as soccer goes, they know their schedules. But if they're involved in a play, pretty early on, they can come to me, "Hey, coach, I'm also going to do this play on these times," and I'll look at our schedule. And if there's a conflict, you don't want to leave a high school kid in charge of having to make that choice.
Right.
I'm doing this, or what do I do? Because it's easy to say, "Oh, well, do what you love the best," right? Well,
right.
I'm going to let somebody down. So you have to help kind of guide them a little bit with how to have those communications, how to have those talks with the adults that are involved.
Yeah, and we got somebody that always watches my dear friend Carolyn from she lives in Pennsylvania. She was from Kearney as well. Her youngest brother, we ran into the same thing with the marching band and high school band, where the band director at the time literally was like, "You got to march and this, that, and he was like, "Well, I want to do a couple," and he could have balanced it if the guy would have worked with him and treated him like crap, and it wasn't cool, and you hate to see that. You guys know each other really well. You want to ask a couple?
I have one question from chat that I think is a good question for you.
Who asked it?
So Adam, he asks.
Adam Up?
I don't know which Adam this is.
I hope it's Adam Up. Hi, Adam.
I think it is. There's so many Adams now. His son, he's 13, plays soccer for his middle school, and the Providence Future Blues, which I have not heard of them.
Okay.
He wants to play at a higher level, but club soccer is outside of their financial situation. He says, "Do you have any suggestions?" And this is like the hardest question.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Because here you are in a pay-to-play, sport, and not only soccer, but you talk about youth sports across the table. I would certainly go talk to some club directors. See if they have any scholarships, see if they do any type of financial assistance, because the worst thing that we can do is to keep kids at home or keep kids from playing because they can't afford it. There are so many good, talented players, not only soccer, but in any sport
Clint
that
Dempsey.
are out there that can't afford to play.
Trailer Park Clint Dempsey.
Right?
How many miles did he have to travel? How many hours did he have to
lot.
drive? It was like 3 hours each way or something.
So to be completely transparent, I would certainly take your kid or leave your kid probably out of it, but go to talk to some of these clubs and the club directors and see what they can do and tell them about the love for the game, because how else are these kids going to develop? How else can because as we all know, the clubs have the top-notch coaches, and that's where you want your kids to go. And how are we holding them back? Because they can't afford something. I think that's one of the saddest things about the pay-to-play structure, because I've personally coached many kids that couldn't afford it, and yet they found a way to play, or somebody helped them along the way. So reach out to some people, reach out to the directors of the clubs, to see what they can do. Most club directors want your kids to play. Yes, I get it. It's a financial thing too, but if we truly as coaches say that we're doing things for the kids,
right,
that's number one.
Amen.
That is the number one thing, is to let these kids play. Don't let the dollar sign hinder their potential and hinder their love of something. Just imagine, me, it was soccer. If somebody would have told my parents, I'm sorry, you can't play because you can't afford it. Wow. I can't even imagine that.
Yep.
But that's happening, and that's
a lot.
Tragedy.
Yeah,
it's a tragedy, and it really needs to be fixed somehow. But that would be my answer: is go talk to somebody, and hopefully somebody can help with that. Because these kids need to play. And they need to play at that level.
Yeah.
See, I took a really weird path. Like, all of my developmental stuff came through indoor.
Okay.
Like, and that's it's you can get a lot of your fundamentals in indoor, and especially with younger kids. Like, you can go like a lot of these clinics that are here in the area. You can get I think it's like $75 or so for a season,
right.
And you can go down and you can train like at Mockingbird Valley or in any of these other places. There are some very talented people, especially, and I hate to give Mockingbird like hey Mockingbird, but there's a lot of guys at Mockingbird right now that they know what they're doing, and you could get in for kind of a base rate, and I'm sure that you could get some really good fundamental training at Mockingbird Valley. I don't know what King Louis is doing. I don't know, but as far as trying to save some money, if you're in like a pinch, there's actually some really good value in indoor soccer. I know it beats you up pretty bad when you get older, but I mean, it worked for me. I mean, I didn't have like a glorious career or anything, but I got good enough to where I could go play with the big boys.
There's a lot of coaches out there that will do individual lessons, to work on some technical ability. Most clubs in town have some coaches that can do that. LouCity does that. Mm-hmm. They send their players out. The camps. Most of the clubs will run a camp, do those things. But again, you're talking money, right? Mm-hmm. And that's to go back to that question. How can they get the help, and that's a tough question to answer. It's hard to. I don't know the right thing.
Well, I've got a thought on that, and I've been thinking about this for a while, because when I was a little kid, and we're going back about 180 years ago, but kids used to go out and play. All right, I mean, they used to go out, and you didn't need play dates, because a bunch of kids would just run down the field, do whatever they were doing, and come back. This is in my hometown, you couldn't on a school night or whatever, or especially when the spring kicked, the soccer fields were filled with kids playing soccer,
or the street.
I'm sorry,
Whatever.
Or the street,
car.
Yeah.
I don't see that today, and I'm not now. Obviously, that's not. There's no instruction, obviously, but you know what? That's good, because that's where creativity comes from. You are creative on your own. You can't teach creativity. It's impossible to do that. So I'm wondering, just throwing this out to everybody. I mean, do you think the culture today of, being told, of the way it is, where you just don't see a lot of kids doing these things anymore, you think that has an impact on stuff? I mean, or does it? Or maybe it doesn't.
This is what a lot of kids do nowadays.
Right.
Yep.
It's the technology, and when we were younger, that we didn't have that.
Right.
And so when I would get home from school, I was in my backyard every day.
Right.
With a soccer ball, with a basketball, with a baseball, doing everything. And playing, and having the neighbors come over, and riding bikes, and you don't see that as much. And you hit on something, the creativity. When kids are just out playing and they don't have a coach looking right over their shoulder and worried about making a mistake, they will just play.
And that's the thing about the money thing. There's coaches have a feeling, and in any sport, I think it's in any sport, especially when they're younger, there's this emphasis at a certain, when I say younger, I mean like junior high, all sports, they seem to have this super intense emphasis on technical and on the fundamentals. Not saying you shouldn't have that, but there's no creativity in that.
Right.
And if that's all you're doing, you're not creating robots, but you're creating kids that are not going to be as
Right.
creative as. And there's another thing. I think, Matt, what you should do is come up with. I think you should come up with a mascot school. What do you think? Do you think that you could do a?
We're working on a panda costume right now.
You know what? I'll have a kid.
I'm a sad panda.
But I mean, I really believe that there's a bit that we're saying you can't teach creativity in academies. And I'm going to go back to something you said, playing on the streets. When you played football on the street, you had to be creative.
Right.
I don't think kids can play outside anymore without the police or CPS getting called, can they?
I don't know.
Are they allowed to still?
I kick Lincoln out.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, like he'll be over there on the couch on the tablet, and I'll go, dude, go outside.
Go outside.
Like that's
Go
what
forward.
that's
we'll
what.
tell
Yeah.
we'll
And
tell
I
our
under-
girls the same thing, and I'll tell you, it is. You worry about, and as a coach, like talking as a coach,
Like, yeah, I'm going to say, hey kid, be more creative.
No, but you know what I will say.
How does that work?
I will never take a kid out for making a mistake.
Yes.
And when I was growing up, we all had coaches that did that, and I tell my kids just like in the classroom, if you fail or if you struggle at something, it's going to make you better. Right. If you make a mistake on the soccer field, learn from it. And how do you get better? Now, if you do the same thing over and over and over and over, that's a different situation. And you tell them to take risks in certain parts of the field. Obviously you can be a little more creative and risky, in the attacking third of the field than you want to be in your own goal box.
Sure.
But you want those things. You want to the kids to have their own way to do things. Yeah, we all have systems and formations and things, but
Sorry.
oh, you're good.
Go ahead.
This is probably a question for you and I, because I don't think Eric.
Is that Belmonte?
Belmonte's on here. Eric.
I love
Belmonte.
Eric.
Yeah.
Eric
So
Belmonte.
Eric asked this question, and this is probably something you and I can talk about.
I'm going to jump in 1 second.
Yeah.
Eric Belmonte has been a fantastic supporter of this show, and we're going to talk about a little bit of something, not 100%, but later on about Eric and something that they're working on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, does it make you sad when you drive down Westport Road and you drive by River City indoor cooler storage or whatever it is? Do you get sad?
I'm not on. It's rough. As a matter of fact, we, my daughters and I were coming back from my youngest practice last night down in Mockingbird for KFJ, and 71 had I don't know what happened, and all of a sudden my Waze says it's going to take you an hour and 20 minutes to get home. So there was some sort of a terrible accident. So my oldest wants Panera. So I get off at Brownsboro, and we go the back roads through there, and we go to Panera, and I'm at the light right there by Fraze Hill.
Okay.
And one of my daughters says, "Hey, Dad, that was your old place." And my youngest is like, "Where?" And I'm like, "That's storage."
We used to play soccer.
Yes,
That's storage
yes.
facility.
So Eric, to answer that question, yes. I mean, I had some great times there, thanks to the Flams. It was a wonder. We had a lot of good times.
We really did.
I used
And
to play over at Sawyer, actually. So I remember when they built that place, I played indoor there for a couple of years. I did that before I nearly broke my face.
Lou and his family. What was Lou's? What was
Flam.
his
And then
son's
Chris
name?
Flam.
Chris. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. So
man.
there was a lot of good times up there, and so So to drive by there now, it's like, man,
It's rough.
well, I know.
Because I take Lincoln down to he plays youth soccer down at Sawyer, and we got to drive by there, and I just look over there. I'm like, oh, you people really just jacked this place up. But yeah, we played a lot in there, dude. A lot.
When I was working there, so I was the manager at River City for 5-6 years.
We had that whole running crew down there. It was like you, Birdie, Brian. Man.
And I played when I was working there. I played every night. It was pretty awesome. I mean, you talk about a job. I'm working a job and doing things. And oh, by the way, I'm gonna play this 1 hour. That was tough. That was a rough way to go, to have to play soccer and still get paid a little bit for it. So.
River City was really that's kind of where I got started, and then started moving around and doing my thing. But man,
River City was my first job right after when I was doing the A-League, and that was rough. I was commuting from Louisville to about 15 to 20 miles north of downtown Cincinnati. And we would train at 8 a.m. and I would drive up there in the morning, train, had nothing to really do in the day, so I'd drive around Cincinnati. We'd train again at 4 or 5, and then I'd drive back home. And I did that for 5-6 months or whatever, and that was tough. But it was then that I got a hold through Chris Flam. Hey, we're looking for a manager for an indoor soccer place. Sounds fantastic.
Right.
Let's go. And so that was it. And then after River City, when we had my first daughter, and she was young and starts laughing when my wife calls up to River City and I hear her cackling. I'm like, what's that? She's like, it's your daughter laughing. So I was like, okay, I gotta get more normal hours because I was working late nights. So then I went to work. You talk about mascots. I worked for the Superstars, which is a local international mascot company.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's your future career right there.
So I did that. So I did that for about 5 years. I was the GM of a sports entertainment company.
Come on, that's good.
Oh, it was awesome. Through some local guys that are here, and they're still kicking until I went back and then decided that I want to get back into teaching and yeah.
Awesome.
So it's kind of funny. It's
nice,
I've worn several costumes as well. Yeah. As weird as that sounds.
So let me spin it back to the kids and the new facility, the new stadium, Lynn Family Stadium. Do the kids talk about that at all? I mean, if I'm a high school kid and I'm into playing high school soccer, I want to play in that friggin' stadium.
Correct.
Has that even been mentioned at all? Do you think that's something?
It's funny, and this was not a pre-discussion. You brought that up. We so collegiate played, and we made it to the Elite Eight this year, and then we lost. And one of the things that I did is reached out to some local people to say, why are these Sweet 16 after you, or even region tournaments? You have regions 5, 6, 7, 8 that are somewhat local with the stadium. Would LouCity be interested in hosting some of these regional tournaments?
Jesus, yes. I hope so.
And not only like regions 5, 6, 7, or 8, or even region 6, 7, whatever regions they would be willing to do. Right. But then, the way that high school soccer in Kentucky is now, only one team from this area is going to make the Final Four, right? And then you get a team from from Lexington, from Northern Kentucky, and then like Western Kentucky.
It's normally like 2 teams from Jefferson County, a team from Oldham County.
You see,
yeah.
So at that point though, when you get out of your region, so you have regions 5, 6, 7, and 8. So only one of those 4 teams is going to make it, but you have like a Sweet 16 and Elite 8. At that point, why, man? If LouCity would be willing, how cool of it? Because again, I said it earlier, we do this for the kids, right? And
absolutely.
For them to have an experience. Right. What better experience is that? So
would they have to redimension that field?
No.
So they can play full.
Okay. Yeah, you can play on it.
I didn't know if that was a KHS.
No, you can play on that, but. Yeah, that's the experience, and so yes, there's been some ADs that have reached out to LouCity and Brad, and they have said.
Did you say Brad Estes? Wait a second.
Hey, Brad.
Oh man,
sorry. We toast every time we said Brad.
Cheers to Brad. But they've reached out to them a little bit, and I believe I'm not going to speak out of turn. I think they've expressed interest in doing some things like that, cool. And I think they built the stadium with some other things in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
To bring the community together, and what better way for high school soccer, club soccer, to get these kids to be able to go play in that stadium. Right. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, the other thing that as a kid, if I'm looking at moving, and not even moving up. Moving up is not the right way to put it. It is to playing more, right? No, regardless, I mean, you're gonna know at some point whether you feel like you're gonna advance and try and do this collegiately or at the academy level or not. It sounds like that facility can handle some other things. We haven't even talked about that have nothing to do with LouCity playing soccer or high school soccer. Right. It sounds like there's more opportunities there. If there's other, I would love to see a club league championship there. I mean, I would, because it would be a drunk fest. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. I mean, but that's, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so many opportunities in that facility that I see in the future. I'm going to completely change direction. Are you an MLS fan? Do you follow any of the leagues? All right. As a coach at the high school level, and you see what's going on at MLS and what that's all about, how would you connect it? It's disconnected right now. The whole thing is just it's such a mishmash. I mean, there's a classic model. There's the classic model of Europe. The problem with Europe is that Europe doesn't have the scholastic thing. We do. It's never going away. The purists need to shut up about this stuff. It's never going away. It's just never going to happen.
It's the American way of life, man.
Well, that's just that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Architect, what do you think that would look like? I mean,
it's tough. I mean, U.S. soccer right now is in some shambles, and that starts with the development of kids, the youth program, all the way through. Something has to change, and what is that something? I don't know, because you're right. The scholastic part of sports is still going to be there, and that's okay.
We love scholastic sports in this country. It is our community bonding.
Right.
You're not going to just erase, because soccer purists don't think past soccer. They don't understand that from a community perspective, especially like I live in southern Indiana. You go into central Indiana, their high school basketball team is their soul.
Right.
So what are you going to do? So let's just get rid of it for AAU.
Correct.
Kiss my ass. It's never going to happen. So,
I get that, and the one thing I would say that is not just soccer specific, but as far as we go back to the pay to play,
yes.
How many months a year are kids doing a sport, a specific sport?
Right.
You see all of these professionals that talk about they did multiple sports. I am a huge proponent for that.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Me too.
Play
multiple skills,
multiple things. Mahomes, just said after they went, he said
perfect
the same
example.
thing.
Baseball. If it wasn't for baseball, he wouldn't be the quarterback he is right now.
Right. Let these kids do and try multiple things. Right. You don't want them to get burnt out. And the percentages of these kids that are going to go on to, number one, even play college, let alone play past that, are so minimal. Colleges, right. Yes, you can find a school if you really want to play college soccer or college, you can work hard enough and you can find a school that will fit your needs. Right. But past that, I mean, you're talking less than 1% of these kids that are going to be able to make it.
Right.
How does that change? I don't know. I don't know if you go to your seasons and you play each sport, something, maybe you pick one, if soccer is your thing, that's great. But during the winter, I'm also going to play volleyball or basketball. And if there's a conflict during the winter, I'm going to go to basketball. Right. And it's okay. And coaches have to understand that, right. You develop different muscles, you develop different techniques, creativity by all these different activities that you can do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that needs to really continue to be pushed on to these kids. Is like, it's okay. If you're playing soccer 10 months a year, that's fine. Yep. But you got to do something else too.
Sure.
Because what are the stats? Like 70% of kids when they turn 13, if they specialize before then, they quit.
Right.
That's not what we want. That Absolutely. Is not what we want.
That's a great point. And that's we start talking about. It's not just even the sports thing, that the scholastic thing allows a kid to do as another avenue to get to professional sports. The scholastic thing also allows a kid to get involved in the arts, allows a kid to get involved in other things culturally that the academy system is never, ever going to do. Because the academy system, we've said this on the show before, the academy system is about soccer, teaching, a little more teaching, soccer. That's not school.
No.
And that academy system is for the very, very, very elite. And if a kid's that good and they're that dedicated, that's fine.
Right.
Here's another thing that we haven't really talked about a whole lot, but I really see this as a possibility. It's going to be another generation and a half. Sunday league soccer is fun soccer.
Right.
Sunday league soccer is the fun stuff. There is this huge gaping thing going on in American sports right now where the fun is sort of kind of missing a little bit. Everything's about focusing on the superstar, and the superstar makes a lot of money, and it's all about money and hero worship, and I really struggle with some of that because I'm not the idolatry thing drives me nuts. They're just people.
Right.
There's this whole culture that we're missing on Sunday league soccer that I think could explode someday. I really believe that. Where like you're hanging out and it's August or whatever or September, early September. NFL hasn't kicked off. Let's go watch Uncle Fred play soccer. You know what I'm saying? But it's missing, and it's a real thing all over the world. It is a real thing all over the world. England, if you've ever tried to watch Sunday league soccer in England and some of the stuff that goes on there, It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's comedy.
People trying to bike, and
Right.
it's great.
It's comedy. It's social. LouCity's never going to be able to produce that. Louisville City is never going to be able to create that because LouCity's professional soccer. It's a whole, and it's a great thing. It's a great. That's why we're all here.
Right.
But
what happens when
there's
like
this,
Saints and Molly Malone's have rival pub
Thank
pubs?
you, because that's what some of the things. We're going to be at Butchertown. Okay, when Do Love Live plays the new play. There's this whole layer missing from soccer right now. That could be. What's the matter? What happened?
Says advice giver pops in. He says, "Is this where all the hottie by males congregate?"
Yes, obviously.
So,
Thank you for noticing.
My career being a pole dancer ended a few years ago.
Sometimes I glance at Chad and I chuckle and
Really,
I'm like,
replace my hip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's another, and this is, I'm going to get this back to you, making sure that kids enjoy and love playing the game at 18 years old, so when they're 28, they still love it,
Right.
as opposed to academics.
Yeah.
If you're not a pro, that's not enough. And that's the thing that I think, does that, now, that's what I'd like to ask you as well, is making sure that you create a love for this that goes well beyond without making it all about LouCity.
Right.
Or else, because that's not the right avenue for this.
There was a great article that I shared actually on Facebook today, and I don't know if you saw it or not, Derek.
briefly.
About
on the road.
some development and things like this. The thing that is missing, that cannot be missing, is the fun.
Right.
This is a game. It's a sport. It's a game, whatever you want to call it. That it has to be fun. You need to be doing it because you enjoy it and love it and have fun. There's way too much emphasis in club soccer or whatever level soccer about winning.
Yes.
Okay, you have an 8-year-old that and you look at there's rankings of kids of different sports that second graders are ranked in basketball. You have the top 25 kids. Are you kidding me?
They're going to adopt that mentality.
So the problem is, you teach to win or you coach to win instead of coaching to develop. And that was a big part of that article was that, when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, you're picking the biggest, strongest, fastest kids because you can blast the ball down the field and that kid can outrun everyone and score 10 goals a game. They're not developing,
Right.
And so you have to be able to find those kids that have the love for the game, that are going to be willing to put in work to become better, that may not have developed yet as a person.
Right.
They may be young, small, whatever it is, and then when they start to grow and get better, they have been developed. Technically, they're gifted and they've worked hard. And then when they do grow, now they're big, strong, fast, and man, that they have an unbelievable touch that they can do things on the ball.
Right.
So stop looking at the fastest kid on the planet because that's great. That's a huge bonus to have on a soccer field or any athletic field. And look at the kids that can be creative
Right.
on their own, that want to do things and that have that passion that they can develop. And it might be 2, 3, 4 years from now,
Right.
and it might fade out. They may lose the love at that point, but if not, you keep pushing. And then when that kid is 15 years old and the kid that was 8 that was so much bigger, stronger, and faster, they've caught up and probably surpassed them because they're playing with the creativity,
Right.
the smoothness, if you will, the technical abilities, and now we're the same size,
Yeah.
and now we're the same ability, and I'm probably going to surpass you, but from ages 6, 7, 8 up till 13, 14, 15. Mm-hmm. It's win, 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 win. Mm-hmm. And that's the mentality that a lot of coaches, a lot of parents have, and I think that's a detriment to the game. So where's the development phase?
Right.
Of course, all coaches, all parents, all kids like to win. Who doesn't, right? Mm-hmm. But that it shouldn't be a win at all costs. It shouldn't be. It's all about winning. Right. I would rather lose a 3-2 game than win a 10-0 game.
Right.
And it doesn't make me. Well, maybe it does make me a little weird as a coach. But I'd rather have that game to say, okay, now let's talk about. Right. It was 3-2. We were in that game. What did we do wrong? What could we fix to get better? And then next time.
Well, you just mentioned it. When you're in a competitive situation, kids focus harder when they have to. When you have to compete to win. you focus harder on the task at hand. When you're up 8-0, as like we just saw, if you're an Everton fan like myself, and I'm ready to shoot myself in the friggin' throat.
It's when you go to heads only.
Okay, right.
8-0's heads
and
only.
I accept that I will graciously, my sports soul dies every time I watch this friggin' team. 92nd minute, they're up 2-0. Take a nap, draw 2-2.
Yeah.
Now multiply that with kids who have no focus level at that. You're up 40-0 in a football game, or you're up 6-0 in a soccer game. Hi, Dad.
Right.
Hi, Mom. And they lose, and it's like. Yeah. But I'm not even talking about 6 years old. I'm talking about 14-year-olds.
Right.
All right. It's the same sort of deal where they don't. Competition makes people better at every level, regardless of what you do. I'm going to ask now. Here, I'm going to
challenging people and overcoming those challenges is how you grow, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And this. I've been dying to ask anybody that coaches in this area this question.
Oh boy,
run!
I'm going up.
We are in a society now that over the last 30 to 40 years. And this is so not PC, but I don't care.
Oh no!
I really am going to run.
No. It's not. It's not. It's not that bad.
I'm ready.
We the whole 7th place trophy culture.
Yeah.
You have 2 daughters. You got a kid. You've got a bird sitting in a corner someplace.
I do?
I don't know. You may want to ask her.
No, I've got disposable income.
Jeez, whatever. The challenge of coaching in this culture, having grown up, you too, having grown up in it was a little different 30 years ago.
Right.
And now it's a little bit more. I'm not even challenging the validity of it. It is what it is. I'm not even going to get. It sucks. I'm not even going to get into it. The challenges. What's that like?
You know, we're in a society where unfortunately everybody wants a participation trophy, right? And it's funny that I was, my wife and my oldest daughter were gone tonight before I came over here, and my youngest daughter did competitive gymnastics for a long time,
which is,
and
that's about the best thing a kid could do, by the way. Male, female, doesn't matter.
It was crazy. It was so intense, but I mean, she did it for a couple of years, and her wall of medals is unreal.
Right.
She could get 7th or 8th or 9th place in an event, and she's still getting a medal. And she actually said something to me before we came tonight about the number of medals. And one time we were out of town, and Grandma took her to her meet. And how did you? I got a medal, and she was like, but so did everybody. And so I asked her, I said, Taylor, what did you think about? What do you think about that? Well, it's a medal, so they love it. Right. And so then the dad/coach part comes in, and she goes, I said, do you deserve a medal? I mean, is that something that, or do you think maybe not getting a medal would maybe push you to do a little bit more? And that's tough. You've seen, Coach Walls at U of L has said stuff about this, and then, what Gino up at UConn women's basketball had a big thing about that.
That's a great video, by the way.
Yeah,
it's
really fantastic. I grew up where you didn't get a trophy if you didn't win.
Right.
Maybe a 2nd place team trophy,
right,
but not an individual trophy for a runner-up or whatever. And that kind of hurts and stings. But now you go to these and I've been there, and I've been the runner-up, and I've been the champion team as a coach. You sit there, and both teams get recognized individually. You call up the runner-ups, you call them up by name, and which is great. And in this last fall, I had 10 and 11-year-old little girls that we lost in PKs, and they all got medals, but we were all bawling our eyes out, because they're
good.
Let
them cry for 2 minutes.
And it was like,
we're human. Humans cry.
Absolutely. I'll cry at the drop of a hat. Don't worry.
Yeah, me too.
But it's a good question. And yeah, we have all grown up in different times where there was different expectations. But I knew if we did not win something, I'm not coming home with something.
Right.
Nowadays, you do. And does that send the wrong message? I'm not going to answer yes or no, maybe. But what I have a trophy, I have it on my mantle or a medal or whatever. I may not think that I have to work as hard to get the better trophy or
it's
medal.
about not working as hard to feel good about yourself.
Yep.
And that's where I get a little confused. I'm not knocking it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can't believe I'm using college economics. It's scarcity that creates value. If it's not hard to attain,
right,
it doesn't mean as much.
And I don't want to knock people who are you do you. Right. Do whatever that it is that you want to do. All I'm saying is that the things in my life that I've earned came through failure.
Yeah.
Straight up, hardcore, Failure. Example. I thought I was the crap as a musician when I was a kid. And I thought I was a hot dog. My school, I could play instruments, blah, blah, blah. 7th grade, I got invited to play in the gong show at the high school. I got friggin' gonged.
Right out the door, huh?
Let me tell you something. I remember that more than I remember, and I'm not kidding, 2,000 gigs that I played. I literally talk about thousands of gigs that I played. I remember that more than it because I after a couple days, I cried for one day. How dare they gong me? I'm Joe, and then you're like, wow, maybe I kind of sucked,
Right.
and I'm not saying that doesn't exist in this culture. I'm saying that I think the challenge is to get to somebody to make them want to do that. There's a little bit more,
Right. And as a parent, I've had, my daughters have lost championship games. They've lost, quarterfinal, whatever it is, and not won a tournament. My job as a parent is the same whether they win or they lose. Right. My job as a parent is in that car to hug them, to tell them, how much you love them and how much fun it was to watch them play, not criticize everything. Yeah, sometimes I'm a parent / coach because I coach them as well. But I try not to do that as much in those moments. But hey, it was somewhat. Did you have fun? It was great. Man, that team was really good. Whatever it may be, It's okay. You hit it as a teacher, as a coach, and as a parent. Failure's good.
Yeah.
Now, not consistent failure.
Right,
over and over again.
Exactly.
But
you don't learn from success. I'm sorry. I've never learned a thing from winning anything. Never.
No.
All I know is that I partied.
Right.
I learned how to make better drinks.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't remember ever being like, hey, we won.
Or you got pizza.
Or pizza, or whatever.
My daughters in both of them in middle school, a lot of the tests they will take, they get to do test corrections and they get like partial credit for turning them back in. And they were like, why do you do this? Why am I going to do tests?
What's a test correction?
So if you take a test and say you get an 80 on this test, 80 out of 100 or whatever, so you've missed, whatever, 20 points or something.
Okay.
So you get to take those home.
Okay.
And correct them. So the 20 whatever that you missed, you can correct them and take them in for partial credit. The reason being is if I ask that question again, if I'm asked that question a couple weeks later, I'm not going to miss it. So again,
that's fine.
Learning through
that's valuable.
Right, that's fine. That's a good thing.
In education, you hope that this is a test and you get it or you don't get it, and we're going to move on. If you don't get it, bring it back to me. Show me why or how you didn't get it, or and how you've learned from it. And now, when we have a midterm or a final, and that question's posed again, you're going to remember. Oh, I missed this, and I had and you find out the way to navigate to the right answer.
And then there's the second, which is now the second half of that. You've got the kids that have to learn how to succeed through failure, and then there's the parents who don't want to enforce that as a coach. And we haven't talked about that yet. This is a fantastic conversation, by the way. I'm really, really enjoying this.
I want to do some fun stuff.
We're going to do fun in a couple minutes. Dealing with a parent, and I'm hoping somebody watches this ding, dealing with a parent who decides to interject more than they need to beyond being a parent. If you've ever coached, if you've ever taught, this is probably something you've run into.
If you've ever refed.
Correct.
Well, thank you. Because judging? I don't. Okay. So, as a coach, and I'm not trying to knock parents. Please, I'm not trying to knock anybody. It's a general conversation. Your exposure to parents that maybe go above and beyond. Yeah. This is a thing in this country, and it's a thing anywhere. But dealing with that, accepting that, approaching that. I mean,
it's tough. So as a coach at collegiate, and also for the past 3 years, I was actually the athletic director there as well.
Okay.
And so there were some of those conversations. And what I take away from this is, if I have a parent conversation, whether they came to me as an AD or they come to me as a coach, the first thing in my head, number one, is have some sort of as a coach, have some sort of 24-hour rule, to where right after a game that may have been a hard-fought, heated game, you don't want this parent coming right up to you and talking. Let them calm down for 24 hours. Let us calm down, because as a coach, especially when you lose a game and a parent comes at you across, even if they're coming to tell you, man, coach, great job, blah, blah, blah. But when they come up, you automatically somewhat get on a defensive because they're coming, So have a 24-hour rule. After that, usually there's a calming period. They have time to think. You have time to think. But when I meet with parents, whatever setting it is, whether it's an academic setting or, as a teacher, whether it's a coach or whatever, my first thought is this kid is their world. So they, no matter if I tell you something you're not going to like, you're not going to like it because you love your kid.
Right, absolutely.
You are a parent, so I have to respect that.
Right.
But as far as the coaches go, the coaches are the professionals.
Right.
You'd hope. Now, are they all professionals? No. We get that. But their job is to coach a team. Mm-hmm. And a team does include your child, but does not only include your child. There are other kids and factors involved. So playing time is something that really I won't talk about too much. Right. If it really is bothering a parent, I'll have those conversations. But you have to say, they have to understand that you are the coach. Yeah. That you are the ref, that you are, and our school, we have a thing up in the gym that says, let the players play, let the coaches coach, let the officials officiate,
right.
And let the fans cheer words of encouragement, and that's it. And I know I'm not perfect by any means.
Right.
I don't expect your child to be perfect
sure.
by any means. They fail on the field. I fail. I make mistakes coaching all the time, every game, right. And I tell my kids, whether they're the high school kids, whether they're the young kids, nobody, name any of your favorite players in the world, nobody plays a perfect game.
No, of course not.
As a matter of fact, they make many, many mistakes each and every game. How you separate yourself as a player is how you get over those mistakes and how you make up for them. Mm-hmm. And I really do try to, you can't teach effort and attitude.
Right.
And I tell those kids that all the time. I said, if you come out with effort, attitude, heart, and desire, and you can leave the field and say, we had all four of those things, right. You might still lose.
Right.
And that's okay. If you can walk off, and sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way and the ball goes in the back of the net and you hate it, and you know that you've played well, you walk off with your head held high and
sure.
you hope that you did things the right way. Parents may not see it that way.
Okay.
Parents think, this was my kids, this was the World Cup. And it's not the World Cup.
No.
But
it's not even the World Cup.
I've been pretty fortunate, right? The World Cup. Oh, here we go.
I've
been pretty fortunate.
Probably sober.
Yeah,
maybe. But it's a matter. There's a balance between a coach and a parent. You want to have a good relationship with the parents. For the most part, you don't need to get into every detail of everything you do. But I try to approach it with like, okay, I get it. This is your kid. And this is the world to them, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep your kid safe,
right.
And to give them the opportunities to succeed.
Right.
And that's all I can do, and hope that they appreciate that. And as a coach, I want your kid to become a better person. Whether I'm coaching these high school boys, at some point they're going to become parents, likely. So whatever I'm helping instill in them, they're going to carry on through college and above. And some of these young girls that I'm coaching are going to at some point be mothers.
Right.
And and how I treat them. We all think about the coach that we had that did
sure.
X, Y, or Z, whether it was negative or positive.
Absolutely.
And my goal is hopefully one day,
or gym teacher,
or whatever.
You know what I'm saying? Yes,
right. And whatever that is down the road, I hope that they can say, Coach Wosniak was this or whatever, and I learned this from him. I'm gonna get some that, man, he was a jerk, whatever, and that may be the case for those kids, but for the most part, I hope that I've instilled in them, how to become better people, better athletes, better whatever, and I hope that comes over to the parents of the kids that I coach.
That's awesome. So. And you mentioned coaching and the impact. I mean, there's an impact that you can have on an individual by just caring about them and letting them know that losing's not failure.
Right.
I mean, you can lose a contest and not fail in the sense that, look, if I slung everything out there that I've got and I get beat, I get beat.
Yeah.
And you mentioned coaches. My gym teacher in grammar school, Al Soma, who I'm still friends with on Facebook, he became a principal at the high school I used to teach at. He was such a major influence on my life. He was my football coach too, and I let him down because I just didn't. There came a point where I just didn't. I was never going to start. I was too small. I was fast, but I was just. And I didn't, and I knew that, and I let him down because I stopped putting in the effort. He grabbed me by the shoulder pads one time, and he just at a game it just friggin' lit into me.
Yeah,
I remember that moment too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was a major failure.
Yeah.
So, is anything else going on social media or?
No, chat kind of calmed down.
Okay.
We've still got a good viewership. But
So hopefully you're all enjoying this.
Yeah.
We're doing whatever what we talk about, Louisville youth soccer, and Chad Wosniak. Thank you so much so far. I mean,
Thank
please
you
stick
very much
around.
for having me. Yeah, absolutely.
But let's lighten things up a little bit.
Awesome.
All right. So
Hey,
we're going to do this before. Go ahead.
Who's the best team in the South End that isn't Butler?
You got to give Pedro and Fern Creek some credit.
Oh God, Fern
yeah,
Creek.
Throw it out to John Pedro. Who would you say?
I went to PRP.
Okay.
So I'm a little
All right.
biased. That's
Okay.
why I don't like Butler.
Yeah.
Is that a rivalry thing?
PRP and Butler, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I was in high school, yeah.
Yeah,
We did not like Butler.
Carney and Harrison in soccer. Carney and Harrison was just they used to have games. I mean, they've played games at Red Bull Arena.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
That
such
many
an
people.
yeah.
Right,
Well,
right.
that area there's just this insane. And they finally won another state championship. It had been a while, but the Kearney's just been a soccer town forever. And
Yeah, Fern Creek's been killing it for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Fern Creek and even Bullet East kind of jumped in there.
We played Bullet East in the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like Bullet East, when in the '90s when I was in high school, like Bullet
Yeah.
East was really bad,
Right.
and now they're like,
Yeah.
and Butler too.
Yeah.
I mean, Butler was kind of they were level with PRP,
Right.
and now they're like, what they finished like 20-5 or
Yeah.
something.
Well,
Yeah.
Collegiate 20 years ago was, I mean, we were nowhere near what they are now. I mean,
I remember that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way. It ebbs and flows a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I like Valley comes in and they play like 6 games.
Yeah.
And then you got like you remember when Western had a
Right,
team?
right,
You were
right.
like, oh man.
so anyway, that's we're gonna get back into a little bit more of this in a few minutes. But we're gonna ask some questions that we're gonna do. The social media cut out when we did this before, so hopefully it doesn't again.
It was a sign, but Joe's not paying attention.
Of course not, never.
That was weird earlier with the Wi-Fi.
That was very
really
weird. Thank you for all of you that are sticking around. I really appreciate it. It is the off season, and we're trying to survive through what has been. We'll never have another off season like this. If you're a Louisville City supporter, because I doubt we're going to build
We're never
another
gonna lose
stadium.
championship.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. We're going to win the next 38 championships.
Damn right.
But we're never going to build another stadium, right? I mean, it's just
I hope we outgrow this one.
well, yeah, but I mean, hopefully
Never
it's
say never, right?
never
Yeah.
say never. But this is for anybody that's out there that's a LouCity fan, and for everybody that's here. We're going to have a little test. Okay, give yourself 1 point, 10 questions. All right,
Please answer these in chat. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, you can answer them in chat. Also, if we're going to be answering questions later on, we're waiting for Mario to come on down. #3. I think it's over there, right? If I look at
It's
the
over
camera.
Chad's head over there.
Over Chad's over there. 3B podcast. If you look at the TV screen right now, #3B podcast.
I'm looking at that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's the screen.
Through the magic of video.
There we go.
So hopefully we'll get to some of that. But if you have any questions, we're going to check that out as well. #3B podcast. How much of a LouCity fanatic are you? So here are the questions.
I almost don't want to answer that.
Well, these are fairly simple. I mean, there's really not as my eyesight's just
What color was Matt Fondy's hairband?
all of them. I don't know. Here we go. Question number 1. Do you find yourself humming chants to yourself?
But yeah, sometimes when I'm in the car.
Which one?
We are 502. Like yeah.
Are you familiar with all the? I mean,
I know some of them.
Some of them?
Yeah.
but I love
That's the
the one.
That's
oh,
everybody's.
that's a generic one.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
one I find myself doing is SCA.
Yeah, that's the same one I do.
Now, SCA, by the way, we're not going to say the name of it. We can't.
You can't say sweaty camel ass?
No, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, our former engineer, Matt. No. Because you all turned around to me and you were like, well, what's the name of it? I was like, I don't know, Sweaty Camel Ass. Okay, Sweaty Camel Ass.
Yep.
And so that's my favorite. I like that one a lot. I don't know why. We got a couple new ones coming up.
Oh, hello, Nightbot.
Nightbot?
Yeah, Eric. If you spam emotes in the chat, Nightbot gets mad. Nightbot just showed up. Welcome to chat, Nightbot.
So, if you find yourself humming Louisville City chants to yourself and just give yourself a point.
What if you find yourself humming it to other people without their consent?
You can give yourself a you know what? That's extra credit.
Okay.
Extra credit. You get 1 point extra
Behind
credit.
somebody at work.
Yeah. Hey, you're fired. Okay. Number 2, how often do you go on social media for LouCity updates? Is it
Every day.
once a day?
Every day.
I think I occasionally get off of social media. Oh yeah, easily multiple times a day.
Thank you for finishing that sentence after off. Yes. Yes, I do that as well. Score. Score. That'll be score yourself another point.
I've got notifications on my phone, so I kind of have to look.
Right.
Like,
so give yourself a point.
Yeah, social media is just. I mean, it's all day, every day now, right? I mean, it's
crazy. It is crazy, and it's at least they're upping their game. I mean, we'll talk about the U23 team. Is that? I mean, are they calling it the U23 team?
yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make sure because I just know as the League 2 team.
Mm-hmm.
the USL too.
Yeah. So, question number 3: do you refer to players, coaches normally by their nickname?
Well, Diesel doesn't like it, but Hulk seems to think it's funny.
Okay, there you go. See, there it is.
I mean, I call John. I call him Hack.
Hack.
I'm like, yeah.
Right, or Hack, or like I can't Coach Coach O'Connor, which you can't call him that next week. Who will be here next week, by the way? John O'Connor will be here next week.
I mean, I've gotten used to it. Most of the time, I call people by their last name.
Or
JOC.
So give yourself a point if you do. Question number 4: do you make it a point to change driving paths to see the new stadium?
Ooh, that is my driving path.
I do. Well, okay, so
there is no other.
I do.
You know, I
done that.
kind of do. I've kind of been like, I got to go over. I tried to go. We had a meeting last week, and I tried to go over to check out just to walk over, and everything was blocked.
If you
all the paths were because they were doing whatever.
If you're leaving downtown to come back out my way, I live in the East End.
Mm-hmm.
If you go 64, you have to go over the kind of the overpass, and they've got a big retaining wall, so you can't really see as much of it. So I go 71 and go under. Yeah,
we went. My high school had a basketball game down at Old Mail last Thursday, and I took my girls there, and we were going down 71, and it was when the lights were all purple.
Yeah,
and it was so sweet.
And you know what they had today? I was driving over today, and they had the sign up. It said, "If you want LouCity tickets."
Oh yeah, the board was up today.
Yeah. So that's the first time I had seen that.
It's pretty cool.
Really, that's very, very cool. So give yourself a lot of points if you did that. Question number 5.
10 million.
Yes, give yourself 10 million. Question number 5. Does the thought, man, how come we haven't signed a blank cross your mind while you're at work?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
Speaking of, we could jump into this. Welcome back, Ben Lund.
The
right,
Berlin
Ben?
Wall returns for another season.
The German Gebref. That's my guy. I mean, he's too tall. All the keepers are too damn tall.
I think that's the idea.
But still, there should be a rule that makes them shorter so guys like me can do it.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Percentage. How much of your clothing selection is purple?
Now, how do we score this one?
That one's what? Everybody gets a point.
Okay, then.
It's the 7th place trophy mentality.
Everybody. We're all happy.
We're all happy. I have some away kits.
I've got quite a bit of purple. I mean, I've got
more
two shirts,
than
a hoodie, hat.
I've had more than I had.
Yeah.
You know, and without getting into any of the other stuff, I like the fact that there's still purple involved in everything, regardless of what they were talking about as far as changing brands and stuff like that. I'm glad that they did that. I mean, I also said on social media that if they changed the color of the team, if there was a big influx of money that would make the team competitive for 10 years, you could change it to whatever freaking color you want. I could care less. I mean, the culture's about winning to me. The culture's about who we are, and not just the culture on the field, but off the field. I could care. Like, I've never been to a game and said, "Hey, man, look at the purple! Yay!" Yeah, I've never done that. But I understand. But I understand that it matters. So I'm not saying that it's not inconsequential. It is very consequential. Just I don't care about it that much. Those people are, if you change it for purple, I'll never come back. And these are the people that come to 2 games a year. You know who you are. Anyway, moving on.
I'm still going to wear purple, though. And to answer your question, about a third of my wardrobe, because I got a lot of U of L stuff, too.
Okay.
I've got a question in chat.
Go ahead. Shoot it.
It just says, can someone read this? That's a question.
Yes, we can read it.
And then it says, Brad Estes.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I like our chat.
Chat is awesome today. Thank you. All right, question number 7. Yeah, thank you. Chat's into it.
Grab the bottle, it's fine.
Yeah.
Do you check the schedule to schedule time off for non-weekend home games? Like if you have to work and whatever, and do you just like, man, I got to check the new schedule to.
It hasn't come up yet, but the schedule doesn't have times.
I mean, I work.
What I'm saying, when it does, when the times do,
No,
like
I do schedule time off. I mean, for home games that are at weird times, though. So yeah.
Okay.
I have done that.
I've done that too. I don't know. I do that. I have to.
Especially this year, man.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. With the first 4 games on the road, but they're fairly close, right? 2 of them are Pittsburgh and Indy.
Pittsburgh and Indy are games 2 and 3, I believe.
Cool. Question number 8: do you plan vacations around home trips or home or away games?
Games 2 and 3.
There you go. So it's almost the same. Do you plan your vacations when the schedule comes out around away games?
No, I can't take that. I mean, I get forced vacations when I go to Chicago, but
yeah, I mean, I did when the schedule. I waited for the schedule to come out to see when they were playing Jersey. I'm sorry, Red Bulls, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never figure that out. And make sure that I can get over that. And it works out great because
see New York.
and then Atlantic City plays that Wednesday. So Atlantic City is another team that I follow. So that's gonna be kind of cool.
I've actually only done that once.
Okay.
Because pretty much everything is just a weekend trip, which doesn't really, I don't think, is a vacation. But do you remember in 2017 when Tartan Devils made it all the way to play
yes, it was the
us
same
in
week,
the Open
right?
Cup
Right.
as a Wednesday, and then that Saturday we were playing Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So that was just a nice little 4 or 5 day trip.
Just worked out.
Yeah.
Question number 9. So give yourself all kinds of points, whatever.
So many pierogies.
Question number 9. Have you just randomly walked up to somebody and said, "Hey, what section are you in now?"
That's funny.
no.
What's your view?
And that's like in Jersey, if somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, what exit are you?" That's a New Jersey question. It's the only state in the union that who you are is defined by what exit you are off the turnpike or the parkway. So I'm just wondering if
so
people
in Louisville now it's what section?
What section?
So that's something we're gonna. We're starting it.
We're gonna work. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then finally, this is a bonus question. So you can give yourself like 3 points if you ask the right question or answer it right. And you'll know what it means. Just give it a second. Does your face cringe when somebody talks favorably about Skyline Chili?
I don't actually have a problem with it. I just pretend to.
There's one right across the street.
I think
oddly enough, their
that's
buffalo chicken wrap is pretty tasty. It's not chili, which is a big mark in its favor.
I can't eat that chili.
That's a Cincinnati thing.
I had Skyline chili once.
Okay, so
their buffalo chicken wrap is good. The chili is a good topping for their baked potato, but their traditional chili and noodles and all that, no.
I still think I don't know if any of you. I still think people that put noodles in their chili are psychopaths.
It's crazy. The first time I came out here, I mean, I'm
interesting.
Half Italian.
Sorry, chat.
Half Italian, and I mean, putting chili on spaghetti is sacrilege. If you grew up in New Jersey, it's literally like if my mom saw me, she's 88 years old, and if my mom saw me she'd punch me in the friggin' mouth.
So
tough
my
love.
family might be one of the only families that will go to either a Skyline or if we're in the Cincinnati area, Gold Star, and we'll go sit down and we will not order chili.
Okay.
So I'll order cheese hot dogs.
Right.
No chili on them.
Yeah,
my daughters will order plain spaghetti noodles. That's it.
Really?
No chili. So these people look at us like you are.
You know what? Younger kids.
That sounds like my kid.
The reason I don't like Skyline chili hot dogs is because there's barely a hot dog in there.
It's
all cheese and bread.
It's a lot of cheese.
If I want cheese and bread, I'll go eat cheese and bread.
You want a good hot dog, man? Go down to Sonic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dogs,
or Sabret. Oh, Sabret's not out here. But Nathan's. Yep. But anyway, here's the scores. If you score between 0 and 3, what are you doing here?
If we're glad you're here. Don't get us wrong.
Don't get us wrong. But if you score between a 0 and 3 on those questions, whatever.
We're glad you randomly found our channel.
Right. If you score between 3 and 7.
So shout while I'm thinking about it, because these guys watch this later. So all of our friends in Turkey that have been watching us.
Hello, Turkey.
Just wanted to say hello to you all.
Hello, Turkey.
Glad that you came and watched the rerun, guys.
All right. So 0 to 3, what are you doing here? 3 to 7. Thank you for being a fan. Okay.
Thank you for being a fan.
Anything greater than 7, like us, we need to get a life. So there you go. Yeah, well, there you go. That's the
LouCity is an experience.
It is an experience.
LouCity is the thing.
Is the thing. Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah.
Louisville City is the thing.
We haven't done that one for a while.
Let's go back a little
What
bit
section are you in?
Did I hear a knock? Did I just hear a knock on the door?
Was there a knock? Is there somebody at the door?
We will find out.
Anyway, while you're doing that, or was that just somebody at the?
I don't know.
No, there's nobody there.
No.
That was just us to try and get kicked out.
Okay.
Questions about future shows. Anyway, just before we get back into any of this, next week we will have James O'Connor here. We didn't talk about the mini marathon yet. Mini marathon is going very well. We have 26 registered team members. So it's after Saturday. There will be 3 months left. So if you're waiting to do it, I did 9 miles walking last Sunday.
Oh man!
So it was pretty awesome, and it was really happy to do that. So you do not have to run. That's the most. Here's the thing that everybody keeps asking me. 2 things. Number one, you don't have to run. You can walk. You walk at whatever pace you want, even if you don't want to friggin' finish it. Whatever. We're looking to raise money for Harbor House, and that's the whole idea behind this thing. So please, it's not really about how fast you finish. If you're a runner, if you're an adept runner, we're more than happy to have you. It's about community activity and community action to raise money for a local charity and build a partnership with somebody that we can do long term, and we can help expand the communities both in what they do and what we do, and that's what we're here for. So that's the idea behind that. February 22nd, we're going to be doing this show from Harbor House. It's Saturday, 12 to 4, open to everybody. There's an event out there. We're going to keep pushing it. We're going to be doing the vodcast from there. I put my application in to have the mayor come down, hopefully some other guests as well. We're going to be talking about the team. We're going to be talking about whatever. Certainly talking about Harbor House and what they're doing. Hopefully you will come down for that. We're talking about a remote show from Ken Luther's house. People are like, can we watch the barrel get built? All right, we'll do a show from.
It's actually pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, so we're going to do a show from Ken's and Rebecca's, and we're going to build the barrel, and we're going to talk soccer from there. We're trying, like I said, nothing's etched in stone. It's very, very in the beginning of hoping to do this, but we would like to do a show from the last week at the stadium. I think that would be pretty awesome. So we're going to try and work that out as well. We do have 2 rehearsals scheduled. Now, the reason I mention this for the Groove Machine is because the rehearsals are for you as well. It's going to be either March 14th or March 15th. We're not 100% sure yet. That would be the first one. The whole idea is if you can come to the rehearsal and learn the chants and learn the songs, you're more than welcome. I don't even want
We're
to
hearing things.
We're hearing things, folks, and I don't want to talk anyway.
That's why I heard a knock.
Most of the time when somebody comes over and they knock, you can hear it.
You can hear it over there.
Okay.
All right. So
All right.
either March 14th or March 15th, we will have a rehearsal. We're going to be learning some new chants. We're going to go over the old ones. Hopefully you can be there. March 14th may be a challenge for me because I forgot to. I'm judging some shows this year, and I'm judging on March 14th. So it depends on the schedule of the show. It's in Floyd County, so I don't know yet. But it's either going to be the 14th or 15th.
And these aren't musical shows; these are dog shows. Jose,
Yeah, I judge dog shows.
He's an expert in the breed standard for the Bichon Frise. It's really remarkable.
Exactly. I say, hey, Bichon Frise, woof, and then everything's done. Please keep your eye out on social media. We're trying to do whatever we can to coordinate chants, coordinate information about the march, so on and so forth. We really, really want the march to take off. There have been times it's gone really well. This year, it's the first year we're doing it from the new place. It's going to take a lot of work to try and get that going. Also, if you have feedback on the show in any way, shape, or form, positive, negative, whatever, hashtag 3B Podcast and let us know what you think. Anything else do you think I'm missing right there?
No,
Is it am I missing anything?
you did it.
Don't think so.
You did it.
Let's talk LouCity while we're waiting for Mario.
Have you heard from Mario?
No, I haven't heard from him at all. He said he would be here. He said the meeting might go until 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's 9:15. If he's on his way, he's on his way. If not, hey, that's your show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have him on text? Oh, well, there you go. Thanks. So Chad, who's been kind enough to come here and talk some local soccer. By the way, if you go back, Also, this show will be on this station, twitch.tv /GM3B. You can watch whatever you want. Go back and we will have an audio version that gets loaded up to iTunes on Sundays. And that's pretty good too.
Not a backslash.
So,
thanks for doing that.
I appreciate that.
Throwback. Chad is rad.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
So while you're doing that, and I'm going to have to get up for a couple minutes, but I would like, if you could, please give us a Derek story from back in the day. Anything that you think.
Man.
Anything. I'm sorry. You're not embarrassed, are you?
Mm-mm.
Of course not.
No, Derek didn't do anything embarrassing.
No.
No.
Was
Not that I remember.
Was he a nice guy? Or?
He was a pretty nice guy. We got along very well, playing some indoor. He kind of did multiple roles there. He was a goalkeeper at times, and then he played on the field sometimes.
I'm going to ask you guys to take over for like 2 minutes.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of good times at River City, though. That's for sure.
Well, we
Never had to throw you out of any games. I don't think our referees ever had to do that, did we?
No, I had all my problems in Cleveland.
Okay.
So, no, I led when I played for the Crunch. I led the league in penalty minutes.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I had so many 5-minute majors. It was
funny.
It was hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
Okay,
That was when I was a very violent person.
I was playing in like 12-year-old rec league there. So they didn't even have that. They just had yellow and red cards. And yeah, the best memory I have of that place, the coach's son just flipped out for some reason. Just started screaming at him, chucking soccer balls on. He finally got sent off.
See, I could take a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
podcast for stories of things that happened at River City.
I mean, Scott Byers. Shout out to Soccer Village. Scott, I remember playing against Byers, and I was playing sweep or whatever, and he took a shot, and the only part of my body I could put in front of it was like my midsection, and it hit me so hard that my legs went numb.
That's not good.
That's not good. That's not good, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me. Yeah. I immediately subbed out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it took me 15 minutes to come back to earth.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't rupture anything, so that's nice.
Yeah. That's
but
rough.
That was one. I mean, I had 2 concussions. I tore my Achilles was the final. That's when I retired.
Yeah.
And then I played a little semi-pro when I was 33. Yeah. And then after that I was done. I played for the Saints at one.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Hold on, Brian Bloom. Oh yeah, he's you and I and Brian and probably Birdie too. That's Robert Bird, by the way. We call him Birdie.
Mm-hmm.
Birdie and Bizzle.
He said we could do a whole podcast just on stories from River City. Yeah. So yeah.
When did it finally close? Because it opened in like '89, didn't it?
6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Because those, I'm sorry, I can't knock local business people. So the people that owned it.
25 years is pretty good run.
The people that owned River City before it died were not good at it.
That's a shame.
It's the only way that I could put that.
After the Flams.
Right. Oh, the Flams were amazing. Like Lou, man, that place was his kingdom, dude. Yeah. Remember when they put the upper deck on it, just on a whim?
Oh yeah, that
there
was
an
awesome.
upper deck.
So that was during my time there. They re-turfed it, so they put new turf down, and then they built above the bleachers an upper deck, and they put more bleachers up there, so you could view it from up above, and up there they also had a couple, before TVs were ready, they had 2 big screen TVs.
Those big box TVs.
Oh man, my best memory is Lou and Kathy let us have a New Year's Eve party there. Man, that was a lot of fun. And we hooked up the Xbox to the big screens upstairs, and just it was an all nighter. It was so much fun. And you have a soccer field there, and things got crazy, and
then you can't walk the next day.
So it was a lot of fun. Then there was he's right. We could do a ton of things on River City indoor soccer. Long live River City.
And not only just between the four of us or whatever, but some of the stuff, like some of the big, like there was some big brawls down there.
Wow.
And people would get thrown out.
People fight when they play soccer?
Oh, dude. No, these were like...
Here's the funny thing.
These
So-
were like earth-shattering fights.
So
Like,
here, as the manager, you have these usually grown men that are the absolute nicest people in the world, but something in their life makes them click as soon as they step foot onto the field.
Like,
Absolutely.
like Dean.
Oh, I know.
Oh man, and they can't control.
Right.
And there's some definite fights up
You
there.
remember Dean?
Yeah.
Oh man, Dean.
Yeah.
Dean, when he would get on the soccer field, was meaner than hell. But he's the nicest dude.
And it's sometimes it doesn't even take. It's not even an event. It could be some. There was a guy I used to play with. His name was Jimmy Pellegrino, and he was a sax player, world class saxophone player, nicest guy in the world. Recorded, virtuoso performances, so on and so forth. I guess we're out of booze.
What have you done?
You put a shot of Johnny Black in him.
Different
Stay
person.
away.
Yeah.
Stay. Now, kid drinks gin.
Yeah.
All day long, scotch all day long, beers all day long. Johnny Walker Black set this dude off. You don't want to be anywhere near him, and he was a black belt, so you really didn't want to be anywhere near him.
No. Yeah.
But the nicest, guy used to be high all the time. But the nicest guy, he used to work at the school and he would come over and fix instruments. And he was really good at it. I mean, with woodwind instruments. But just going to your point, you never know. You never know. There's just something sometimes that people just lights them off.
Or they had a bad day at work, or split up with their partner, whatever it may be. Yeah, there was definitely some fights, and
I remember faces. I don't remember a lot of names, but I can remember very vividly the people that you didn't want to like go 50-50 on.
Correct.
Right.
Like because they would undercut you.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
What about the team itself? Going back to LouCity, tickets and stuff like that for kids. Are they amenable to that? Are they have they? What do they do for kids to have them come in? Like
they reach out. They reach out to a lot of the local clubs.
They do,
and a lot of the clubs will have their specific night at LouCity games. They'll do them at U of L games, and they make tickets pretty readily available, and they'll reach out to some clubs to do the ball kids and player walkout and intros.
Right.
I really think they've done a nice job, kind of getting involved with the community, and making it about, it's about the community. It's a high level soccer, but it's also these kids can go and it's a relatively inexpensive evening, for families, and go and have a good time and watch soccer, and it's the way it's gone great.
Oh, let me talk about the MLS thing. I don't know if you guys saw it today. Orlando released their ticket prices. Take a guess at how much is a supporter section. We pay what, 15 if you got season tickets, roughly?
Yeah.
I think ours are 15. Yeah.
All right. Take a guess at how much Orlando single supporter section tickets are.
32.
They're completely out of touch with reality. I'm gonna say 45.
$42.50.
Wow,
dude.
$42.50.
And didn't they finish? They finished like near bottom
of the table.
They were like
the bottom of the table. Them
oh
and the
man,
women's team.
they're not.
$42.50. You've got knowing the kids in your community. Can you imagine?
No.
No.
Everybody's going to be a Miami
you've
fan
got two
down
daughters,
there
so
now.
you've got two kids plus away. So it's got to be. If you went to a game there, or
$200 on tickets.
Just on tickets.
No.
And then
That's 4
Dad,
games.
can I have a hot dog?
Right.
And then you got to go through all of that. Another
$9 for a hot dog.
Right.
Seriously, Premier League supporter sections don't cost that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And I guess we can get into this a little bit now. Is talking about
that's not a reality.
And here's the problem, and this is why I see this vicious cycle. We talked about this last week. They're raising you don't raise tickets if you don't have to. You don't.
Right.
That's the last thing you want to do is make it harder for people to show up. The only reason you're raising ticket prices is because you need the money.
Right.
End of discussion. Okay. You
gotta
need
keep
the money.
Ponzi afloat a little longer.
Why do you need the money? You're not getting enough money to sustain. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I interrupted you.
All right.
Go ahead. No, you finish.
You don't have enough money to sustain what you're doing. Okay? Why don't you have enough money to sustain what you're doing? Well, we're not getting enough ticket sales, but what we're getting from the league and the supplement as far as the seed money that you have to pay for new franchises is not what it was. Okay, so you're not getting enough money and you're not getting the viewership. What do? Well, we've got to bring new players in. Well, if you bring higher players in, what do? You got to pay them more. If I have to pay them more, what do I have to do? I've got to raise the money on.
Yeah.
There's a vicious cycle. I said this last week, guys. This isn't sustainable. It just isn't.
Well, and if you think and you think in Orlando, in speaking with James and Tabani, you got a whole different staff. Right. You've got apparently a lot of different players coming. Now, I will play devil's advocate and say Orlando, I wonder if it's different than every other city because it's Orlando. You have traveling families coming down to vacation, so can they bump their tickets up a little bit because you have...
That's fair.
Now, if you're talking
supporter
sections,
section,
that's different.
Yeah.
You're talking season tickets, but are there tickets for the general public maybe a little bit higher than somewhere else because it's Orlando and people are coming to spend thousands of dollars there, anyway for a week. And by the way, we're a soccer family. Let's go to the game. And I don't care what the prices are. We're gonna go, But yeah, you're right. It's different.
The supporter section is the heart of what you're all about.
Absolutely.
And if you're $42 a game, now it doesn't. You're probably paying a park. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, yeah. And then you're paying, like I said, the booze has got to be expensive, food or whatever. Man, you don't raise money unless you don't raise the ticket prices unless you have to. They're never do that.
They're trying to recoup some losses in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, and I spin it back to the whole MLS thing. It just the way they make money, the way they sustain themselves, doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't. I just don't see it. And then another thing that happened in MLS this week, Chicharito.
Oh yeah,
he's coming back to LA Galaxy, and here's his quote. I don't know if you all heard this. This is what he said. Quote: "It's the beginning of my retirement."
Oh, thanks, Chicharito.
Awesome. You just had Ibra, who just took a big giant dump on you all year long.
Man.
And then now Chicharito, he's got to be a rock star in LA because of look, you can't take away from this guy's career. He's had this amazing. He's a legend in Mexico. He's had this amazing career, and here he comes to play for LA Galaxy, and the first thing he says on it's the beginning of my retirement. Yay! I mean, if you're Don Garber, you probably don't care because you're just trying to get paid. Mm-hmm. But are you serious? How do you say that? Can you? I can't.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't go to LAFC instead of the Galaxy.
True. Well, it is true. I would agree with that. And that's as far as these top world class players overseas. If they're coming to the MLS, they're getting paid big time. But they're not in their prime. The ones that are here, as fantastic as they are, and as many ticket sales as they're bringing, and the publicity to they're past their prime. And so I think you're right. It's true, but you don't say it. No. At least we wouldn't say that, right?
And he tried to gather it up. He tried to gather it up after he said it in the quote. And people were trying to make excuses for him. You see, he didn't really mean that. He meant his retirement from European soccer. Okay, so what you're saying is that he's not good enough to play at the top level, so now he's coming to MLS. Mm-hmm. Still doesn't change it.
Right.
Nothing's changed.
But that's the problem, right? That's the problem with...
There's this
in this country.
There is this lack of understanding about what MLS is and what it's trying to do and why it exists and how it is completely disjunct from creating a soccer nation that makes sense. And that's why I asked you before about a pyramid or some sort of cohesive something that makes sense to getting young kids to play. To move up through the ranks, yep. for lack of a better term, because when you say move up through the ranks professionally, you could still play the game. Talked about that Sunday thing. That just hit me this week. This Sunday football thing, soccer thing, could really be something that's a lot of fun, and we're missing it. We're really, really missing the point. But when I see, let me ask you, you coach these kids. Do they talk about MLS players? Who do they talk about? I mean, do they talk about LouCity players? Do they talk about world players? Who do they talk about?
Local kids will sometimes talk about LouCity players, but they talk about your EPL players. Right. They talk about those guys, and with good reason. I mean, those guys are on a different level. But those are the kids that whether they're the young club players or the high school players, but they're talking about those guys that are over there, and they don't talk about MLS players. I mean, it's just not.
And that's why I just don't get this need to be part of MLS. I just well,
and then even let's look at our media. How how many times did ESPN Sports Center top 10 include? How many times do they include MLS highlights?
Very rare.
You maybe saw some Rooney phenomenal things.
Only when somebody hits one from the half-field stripe.
Correct, right.
Or a bike.
Against Orlando.
Oh, look, this guy
right?
bicycled the ball. Like,
or even that's who they show. And why? Because that's what people want to watch. They don't know who John Smith is that's playing on this MLS team. That,
Ronaldo's going to come over here and play when he's 40.
And he'll fix everything, too.
Yeah.
He'll fix everything. Like there's the Canadian team, Toronto FC just signed a new kid. Who his name is it escapes me. It's a very long hyphenated word. And you're watching the social media on their thing. I watched it a couple days. It was yesterday actually, and I'm watching it fill up with he's going to save this and he's going to this. And here we go again.
One person.
Here we go
again.
Yeah. And I joked. I was like, American soccer's fine. We have Michael Bradley. So everything's fine. Don't worry about it. He's saving American soccer. And we're looking at this insane model of top down. Top down doesn't work in anything. I've never heard of what business do you know starts out top down and is fine? I don't know one. You've got to have a foundation. You have to have, and the foundation is the youth in town and these towns funneling up through their local teams. At the same time, there's an understanding that the unique dynamic here in these states is there has to be an understanding that scholastic and intercollegiate soccer matters. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know one. Avon.
Avon.
Multi-level marketing. What do you
Ding
know?
dong. When was the last time you rang somebody's doorbell?
I don't even think people have doorbells anymore.
Do people have doorbells anymore?
I think a few do.
Get that Ring doorbell where you can
because 30
watch
years,
people steal your Amazon package.
When I was a kid, somebody rang the doorbell. You rang to the doorbell and you were like, now? I go run for my gun. I just...
You hide.
You hide. I'm all panicked if somebody rings the doorbell.
In related news, I'm not coming over to your apartment ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to come see me, text me first.
Yeah.
Pew, 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 pew.
You can learn from our mistakes.
Anyway. Anybody else have anything else that they want to ask? Or I'm sort of just...
Are we going to bring the state championship back to Jefferson County?
Yes.
That needs to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. How are we going to get rid of Henry Clay? Hope that all of their seniors graduate.
Ironic, it's kind of funny this year. We lost to Oldham County, and I think a lot of the coaches and stuff in the state wanted a final. Wanted us to play Henry Clay instead. Now it would have been in the Final Four, not a state final game, but it would have been two of your top teams playing.
Because St. X wasn't even in the state tournament.
Well, we won the region.
Yeah,
we beat St. X in what was the most. We beat them with 15 seconds left in golden goal.
Wow.
It was insane, and the score was 5-4. So it was just like it was just a brutal back and forth, and it always is with us. They beat us in PKs in the district tournament this year too. So we had some brutal games, but when we lost to Oldham County that next day, Henry Clay's coach reached out to me and said, "Hey man, we were really hoping to play you guys. What can we do?" So we've got Henry Clay on our schedule next year.
Oh, cool.
So so it's pretty neat. That still stings, and man, we'll get it. We'll get it. It'll come back to Jefferson County. If it's not collegiate, it'll be one of these other teams.
What about Davies County, man?
Yeah,
I don't even know where that is.
It's down near Owensboro. Actually.
Owensboro.
Okay.
So Davies County, 4 years ago when they won it, was a year that we kind of had a really big run. We had Haji and Cameron Wheeler that are both at UVL now, and we made a big run. And we made it to Lexington for the Elite Eight, and we choked there. And we lost to Covington Catholic, and again another team that we should have and probably should have won that and gone on to win it all. And that was another year that everybody was like, "Oh, collegiate in Davies County, let's get together." Well, that year I went down and coached the All-State game.
Okay.
And Davies County's coach was there, and he laughed and he said, "Hey, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but my gosh, you guys have to play St. X twice and Trinity in 1 week to get out of your region. We don't play really anybody that's solid like that until we play you guys in a Final Four."
Right.
And he made a good quote. He said there's a reason they play the Super Bowl only once a year, and there's a reason there's a 2-week break before it. He said Our Super Bowl is when we get to Lexington for that Final Four.
Sure.
You had 3 Super Bowls within 8 days. That year, that year specifically, we had to beat St. X twice.
Wow.
And Trinity once within 8 days. And
that is insane.
It was brutal. It was absolutely. So you come out of that limping. You got guys that are injured. You're fatigued. You're exhausted. And then you go right into that the regional final was on a Saturday, and you go Tuesday to play Butler. It was that year, and then after that, Butler on that Saturday. Then we go right to play Covington Catholic without breathing.
And these are teams that have only lost like 1 or 2 games,
right.
like the whole season.
Right, and that was the year that it was 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was Collegiate, St. X, Trinity, and Ballard were 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the state,
right.
Coming out of the same region, and so. Davies County coach was like, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. We kind of waltz through the state tournament until we get to Lexington, whereas you guys, I was like, yeah, it's a World Cup just to get to the state tournament, and it's crazy.
Well, something I didn't ask you about. We talked about the academy recruiting and working that. What about from the collegiate level? I mean, what is there any cohesion as far as say U of L or UK or Bellarmine? I mean, whatever the level of school is. Is there anything going on collectively for the high school to the collegiate level right now? Or?
Yes and no. High school soccer is high school soccer.
Right.
The kids that want to play at the collegiate level, collegiate and the NCAA, not collegiate school.
Sure.
They're going to get looked at and found through their clubs. They're going to go to these showcases. They're going to go to college ID camps.
Right.
We can certainly help, and we will communicate with college coaches when we have kids that we think that can do some things.
Sure.
And I talk with a lot of the kids that I coach and say, hey, at what level do you think you want to play?
Right.
And college coaches ask the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
Their talent, yes, is something, but the first question I get when I talk with a college coach is, are they coachable, and how do they act at practice? And if I hesitate, they'll move on to the next one.
Wow. Okay.
And so coachability and attitude is the key to get in. If I hesitate or say, well, they're moving on to the next person.
Sure.
But so that's something that I discuss with my players a lot, is like, you never know, and especially with our school.
I'm sorry. Go on.
We've had we've had a lot of success in the last few years. And we do have some coaches that are coming to some practices and things like that, and we'll tell the kids, like, you don't know when a coach is going to be there watching what you're doing, and if you're moping or don't have a good attitude, they'll walk the other way. They'll walk the other way, and not without hesitation. These guys have thousands of kids they're talking to, so but there's an avenue. It's fun. I like to help in as many ways as possible, and know a lot of people in the soccer community that can reach out to colleges and get these kids where they want to go. So,
yep. And now we've had 2 straight coaches. Coaches were a big factor in what they look for is that kind of personality. It's that culture, whether or not they're a good fit.
Right. Are they coachable? Are they, how do they act at practices? How, a lot of parents tell me about their parents.
Yeah.
Coaches don't want to deal with parents that are going to be completely overwhelming these people. So
right, man.
So
I'm letting Mario do whatever he wants to do in your apartment. I apologize for that. Well,
welcome.
He's in there playing video games.
That's right.
He'll be here in a little bit.
Always ask anybody that's on here. Give them a minute. Discuss anything that you want. Anything that you feel you need to share with people.
Well, man, I appreciate you all. Derek.
I really appreciate you being on here. This is awesome.
It's awesome. I love this type of stuff. This brings me back to my old. I got into some sports broadcasting for a while, so having the headset back on and talking is a lot of fun. We touched base on a lot of things that were important to me as a coach and a person. When you talk about the pay to play mentality, when you talk about the development of kids and multiple sports and doing multiple things and not just specializing at too young of an age. Of course, at a certain age, you probably have to.
Sure.
If you want to pursue that later on. We talked about, looking at the kids long-term development, not picking out an 8-year-old that you think is going to be the next.
Sure,
Messi.
Freddie, the next, because if you're looking for the next Messi, you're going to end up with, you may end up with the next Freddie Ado.
I mean, look at that. That is, that's a story that I like to tell a lot because he was the next great thing, right? And we had pinned him as the savior.
Yep.
What's he doing? What's he doing now?
Nothing.
He's coaching.
Yeah.
And that's great, but you look at these kids that have what it takes. They have to be coachable, and like I said, this is something I talked about to my players all the time. When a college coach or somebody's asking about you, are they coachable?
Right.
And again, if I hesitate, they'll move on to the next one.
Right.
What's their attitude like? How do they react around in certain situations? Before asking me about how many goals, how many assists, what do they do? Those are things. It's a character question.
Right.
And so as a coach and somebody that likes to develop kids from whatever age, character is a huge part of that. You hold your head high, you do things the right way,
Right.
You respect people, and you hope for, hopefully it's a mutual respect. But as a kid and as a soccer player, the percentages that you're going to make it, and this is something I've talked with a lot, are so low. So what next? What besides soccer can you do? Are you a good person? Are you this or whatever? All those things go into. So I mean, we've touched base on a lot of things here, and it's been pretty awesome.
And that's kind of why we do this is to give people the opportunity to share about things that maybe people don't know about, and give them the opportunity to share about their life and as it relates. I mean, obviously the emphasis on this is going to be Louisville City supporter culture, but it ties. It's all symbiotic. I mean, everything is tied together, and without a robust contribution from the academic community, I don't see that's a huge part of it. And for you to come here and share on your own time, I really, really appreciate it. I mean, this was fascinating. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I had no idea what to expect, man. I'll be honest, when Derek reached out, I was like, I don't know. Let's talk soccer. I love talking soccer, but this was more than soccer, and it's good. And I think this is what this community with LouCity and you guys, it's been pretty awesome.
Did you want to share something? Or?
No, I think we're good.
You're not gonna share any, no embarrassing stories from a long time ago, Derek? You sure?
Not
while you're here.
Okay, we'll do that later.
Yeah.
So, folks, Chad Wosniak. Chad, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Guys, appreciate it.
And Mario Sanchez is going to be stepping up next. Thank you, sir.
He the headliner, man. He got Mario coming up here now.
He's going to steal. He's going to steal that headset. So, Chad, thank you so much.
Thank you all
really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Chad Wosniak, a fantastic conversation about youth soccer, especially high school level. And next we're going to bring up Mario Sanchez. Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Sanchez is, this is a big day for you, I believe.
Hey, Mario.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for coming by. The headset is so you can hear yourself a little better, maybe. And Mario, thank you for coming by.
Absolutely.
Chad, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it. Thanks. How are you today?
Awesome.
It's been, can you hear yourself okay?
It's just it's been
you have had a day.
You've had a day.
But you know what? It's a day that as a soccer guy,
man,
in general, now like I transplant, someone Louisville, I consider myself, my family, really. We've moved a lot.
Right.
We've been here the longest, so fun day, exciting day. You talk about the gamut of soccer.
It's a little everything, right?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Let me start you off, Mario. Do you need anything? You want a drink or anything?
No, we just came back. We had the team dinner right now.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's. I apologize for being a little late.
No.
That's a good reason.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
No, I would say Hack had a really good presentation for the guys. The first formal meeting kicking off.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been fun.
Cool.
So we've never met. I've heard. I mean, anybody that ever talks about you just absolutely gushes, and it's a real. And I'm serious.
I pay a lot of people.
There you go. All right, that'll take 5. No, I'm kidding.
There you go. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, I'm a musician.
You've heard that one
That
before?
means absolutely nothing.
Hey, listen. Until a few years ago,
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Sanchez, thanks for being here.
being a soccer coach was no better a few years ago.
I hear you, brother.
So
Oh
I'm
my
with you,
God.
buddy.
I hear you. Please, a little bit about yourself before you got into coaching and stuff like that.
Originally from Southern California.
Okay.
Born and raised with a really fun, big family. My dad was a Cuban immigrant.
Okay.
Came over when Castro took over and ended up in L.A.
Right.
My mom is a Mexican immigrant. My grandfather was working for Ford. He got transferred.
So you're a big fan of St. Patrick's Day. That's what you're saying.
Basically.
I'm sorry.
If anyone knows Cubans and Mexicans, here's what I can tell you.
Okay.
I'm very confused because there's actually those are two polar opposites on the Latin
Right, they
line.
are.
And so parties were interesting in my house. We'd have the Cubans going crazy, dancing, screaming,
Right.
and then the Mexicans a little more subdued on the course. So it was
My mom's Hispanic, and she was from that, and she was very, very quiet. She was very reserved, and everybody else was not.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Oh yeah.
So
But-
Southern California. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so born and raised there. Played Division I college soccer at Fresno State. It was a great place to play college soccer. This is early '90s, pre-MLS. My senior year when MLS started, got drafted by the old Kansas City Wizards.
Wizards. Well, originally they were the Kansas City Wiz.
That's when they had the cool
which
logo.
is the big
No. It was the
on
Wizards.
that road.
Wizards, and then it was the Wiz.
Yeah, then
That's the
Sporting.
worst name ever.
Yeah. Nice.
Their logo was so cool, though.
It was. You know what? In hindsight, you could see where they were going with it.
Yes.
And I think it was actually pretty cool, but I don't think anybody was ready for it.
Yeah, right.
It was way ahead of its
It was
time.
It definitely was ahead of its time.
It was the 90s.
But right now, those original jerseys, retro,
Oh,
are
they're probably-
selling like crazy.
Yep. I wouldn't have no doubts.
Yeah. So then did that, and then played in actually it's funny, the USL at that time was the A-League.
Okay.
Played 2 years in that, and then got into coaching back to Fresno State where I played, and ended up coaching in a college game for almost 21 years. So yeah.
So going back to what we had Chad, and we were talking about the university system. I really wanted to ask you about this. You know, there are soccer purists that are all about trying to create what's going on in Europe. And I always say, look, I would love to see Pro Rel here and whatever. We're always going to have the university system here. We're always going to have the scholastic system here. Here you are. You have a perfect opportunity to meld this together. What's your approach?
That's why I took the job, quite honestly. Having the experience I did. And it's so funny because college gave, my wife, she played college soccer as well.
Okay.
So the two of us, it gave us everything, quite honestly. I mean, I got my education through it. She got her education through it. And at that time, college soccer for a while was the level.
That was it. That's absolutely correct.
1990 World Cup, half our team were literally college players.
Right.
And, they did okay. So now sitting where I'm sitting in this role, it's a great opportunity to, like you say, to kind of mend the two of them. Now, pure development, okay? I'm going to just talk pure soccer, not life development, because we'll go the other way. Pure soccer development. Right now, with the NCAA rules, and it's getting more restrictive, it's very, very difficult to develop a player to be ready for professional soccer.
Right.
That's factual. And that's hard for me to say it. Again, 21 years as a college coach.
Right.
Here at U of L, we had some great players. Ironically, just Jimmy Ockford, who we signed, played for me at U of L.
Right.
So again, it's like it works, but now at the level the MLS is at, with all the money and the internationals, to truly develop a player, quite honestly, it's not for everybody, but bypassing college is kind of the better option. Now, the human side of me, okay, I have 4 kids. My older son's a sophomore. You know what I mean? He plays actually with Elijah Winder on their club team and stuff. My daughter plays. She's a freshman. And so now the dad side of me is like, woof. If my kids come up to me in 2 years and say, oh, Dad, I want to go straight to the pro game, I get it. You know what I mean? But there is a part, especially in America, where that college education is very, very valuable.
Right.
So eventually, whether it's MLS, USL, maybe LouCity one day, we're trying to create a pathway for kids that can play if they're good enough at the pro level, but maybe also offering some tuition money so they can still continue to get their education.
Okay, and that leads to the next question. I mean, there's the athletic part of the scholastic part of it, but there's the scholastic part of the scholastic part of it too. And I'm wondering, as a person who, I mean, education is more important than anything. We know that. How much is Louisville City invested in making sure that the scholastic part of the scholastic thing happens with kids that are coming up through these programs?
Well, look, I'm going to just use Elijah Winder, which is so funny that Chad was in here because Elijah played for Chad. And I don't know if Chad told you, he and I have been meeting actually lately, just thinking of different ideas because Chad gets it as well. So for us, we were pretty direct with Elijah and his family that, we're going to monitor his academics. Right. You know what I mean? And at any point, because Elijah's going to join the team, he's still on an amateur contract, but he's full-time with us now. So, part of my job as well, not only coaching, is to making sure that he continues academically in a good spot. That way, at the end of it, one, he's a kid, right? You got to have that education. 2, if the option there maybe is to go to college, then he still has that one, just pure amateurism, he can do it, and then academically he's prepared, and then NCAA wise, he has the right classes, and he can, if that's the right option, do it. So what I love about working with Hack, and now with James involved as well, is that both of them value still people.
Right.
Just
No,
people. So, because look, there's other organizations. I have friends who work from in the MLS and stuff that these kids are a commodity. And James takes it from the other side of it that in Europe, there is no option. You either try to become a pro. There's no school, so it's a lot more black and white. And the three of us have been talking like we got to make sure as we go slowly taking these steps that we continue to remember that they're kids and that they're people. And part of what we're doing, yes, we're passionate about the soccer side, but let's not ever lose sight that they are people and kids, and we got to make sure we do what's right for them.
Right, and that's part of the unique challenge of doing this here is that there's an added component in the United States that's never going away.
Yep.
My dad was Italian, my mom was Spanish, so we grew up watching that and understanding that. But to think that that's just snap your fingers, it's never going away.
No,
I don't want it to go.
I don't want it either.
I don't want it to go.
Yeah, friends of mine who are still in college, I talk to them all. They're like, what do you think? I said, I'm enjoying it.
Right.
I hope that college soccer stays relevant.
Right.
I really, really do. I mean, look, I had great years here at U of L and stuff like that. I mean, we go to the games as a family because we support it.
Right.
There's some scouting I'm doing as well.
Of course.
But purely because we support it, and I want my kids to see that there's value in it as well. So I'm with you 100%.
And it's interlocking the community too. I mean, it's eventually generating the community passion that the club sport has overseas.
Yep.
But also, if you add in the scholastic part of it too, that's just another link in the chain.
Yep.
And to me, that's something I would be excited to make that happen.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? It's like you're literally trying to be creative on the fly. Well, maybe not on the fly, but I mean, that's. And you mentioned it already, so I'm kind of asking something. The excitement of being able to build something from the ground up has to be
that
amazing.
Was when I started talking to LouCity a little over a year and a half ago. Yeah, it was that enticed me. I mean, it really did because there's one thing to take over that's academy that's already been set up and all that. Right. You're always going to add your all of us, whatever we do, musicians, whatever, you're going to add your 2 cents and your own philosophy. But literally to start from fresh. It's like being an entrepreneur, and we're making mistakes. We're getting some right.
Right.
We don't. There's no manual right now that I can open up and say, okay, tomorrow, January, 25th, whatever it is, you need to do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. It's literally like today, like you're saying, I walk in, press announcement goes out, even with this under 23 team, and also my phone's blowing up, which is great.
Right.
James and I are meeting with people, and then it's awesome. Yeah. It's absolutely awesome. At the same time, trying to forge his path, it's amazing.
And then I guess I'm going to ask you something from the other perspective. Chad was talking. We asked Chad as a high school coach. Okay, he's looking at it from one perspective, on making sure that there's balance between what the kids do at the high school level and doing high school stuff, and making sure that they are fulfilled correctly and academically. Now you're approaching it from a completely different angle. You have a job to do. You're looking to build an academy.
Yep.
You still have to think about that as well. So, I mean,
sure.
you know what I'm saying? You're looking at your main focus has to be, as your position, building the academy and getting the best players in there, but also maintaining
exactly.
that. So, how cognizant of that are you when you're? I mean, obviously you're cognizant of it, but how do you balance that?
Well, I mean, again, I think because my unique position of being in college soccer, I see completely both sides of it. One, I know the rules. I mean, just there's little stuff, just knowing the rules from the NCAA side of it, what kids need, amateurism. Again, little stuff like last year when we announced Elijah was going to sign this amateur contract, people were going crazy. Like, you shouldn't do that to the kid. He's going to lose his amateurism, and it's not fair to him. We're like, no.
Right.
We know the rules, and we can communicate that with his family and with everybody. Yeah. And obviously the USL knows him as well.
Yeah.
So I think that the unique part right now is, like you're saying, is one, myself, Hack, James, we know the odds of really who's going to make it. I mean, it's 1% to 2%.
Yeah.
Okay, so now when we're on the field, we're trying to train these kids like pros in the sense of the details we're asking, the commitment, the mental part of it. I mean, we're training them like pros. And again, I've been fortunate because so many kids I've trained through college and whatnot. And Hack's been great. I'm out there with the first team every day. I know what Hack wants, what we're all looking for. I knew so I have an idea of what it should look like. So on the field, they are held accountable no different than Niall is or Paolo is or whatever. When that whistle blows, though, and we're kind of coming off, then I kind of switch it and like, okay, hey, make sure you guys are doing well and academically. Make sure you're being good kids. Sure. Make sure this, that, the other. We're going to do college talks. We're going to do everything we can. But, again, there's that second but comes. We want them to understand that if they're ready, there's going to be opportunities to try to become a pro. So let's take right now an example. I'm going to keep using Elijah because that's real. So Elijah's, again, he's with the first team. We're a few days here training, and then they're going to go down to Florida to IMG for some time. Okay. And then
Does he go to that?
What's that?
Does he go to
that?
that?
Yeah. So again, he's in. He's fully in.
That's an awesome experience.
It is. I mean, and those are some of the things. And then, Hack and I have talked, like, we got to make sure, though, we balance Elijah as a person, that he comes back and trains with the group I have that I'm training. And he's doing stuff with peers because he's still a kid. So it takes really the whole club to buy into this, because quite honestly, if Hack or whoever didn't believe in what we're doing, then it would be a whole different story. Before I took the job, Hack and I met a couple times. Obviously, people don't know that. Okay. So we could share.
I was going to ask you about. I was going to ask you about your initial experience becoming part of the LouCity family.
Yeah. Hack did basically what I did with the union. So people know Hack's background. Not only with under 17s, he was the director of their academy when it started. Right. He had to build it from scratch. So he and I, shared ideas. What he did well, what he would change, and stuff like that. Now he is a little bit different because he has the MLS behind him, and there's some mechanisms that they have and some finances that they have, that kind of sets them apart. Yeah. And there are certain requirements that they have that he didn't like. But so he and I shared a lot.
He was pretty open about that. He was on here a month ago.
Yep.
He was very, very.
Yep.
He was very direct about what he felt were the issues with the MLS thing. And as a supporter, and somebody that loves the game, there's a bit of a disconnect between what MLS is creating from a culture perspective as what they're trying to create soccer-wise, as opposed to what the culture of soccer is.
Well, that's what's
funny.
What I'm saying?
It's weird.
We've all talked about it, that in a weird way, people don't understand. The USL is actually
much
way more soccer-friendly.
Absolutely.
It's as close to being a world model.
Yes.
Again, without relegation promotion.
Sure.
Again, we won't go there.
Right.
But otherwise, the freedom that we have, it's pretty nice. Where the MLS is very restrictive in some of the stuff they're trying to do with the kids and some of the, we won't go into it, but there's a lot of restriction.
Yes.
So that's why when I start talking to him about it, it was like, wow, this actually could be really, really cool. Because like everyone, I had talked to a few MLS teams and whatnot, and that's MLS. And then the more I dug into it and talked with Hack and with Brad Estes and John East and the ownership group, I said, damn, this is actually pretty cool. Right. It's going to be a challenge. Anytime you start something new, in anything in life.
Did you say Brad Estes?
He did.
Sorry.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I gotcha.
I'm sorry about that.
I gotcha. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's like anything in life. It's who you work with, and then making sure everyone's on the same page.
You just said something that really appealed to me, because when I used to teach. I bug you guys with this so much. I apologize with this whole marching band thing. I do. I know. I probably put you to sleep with this. But the competitive thing, forget about the type of activity it is. It can be soccer, marching band, chess. I don't care what it is. There's, it's all about making sure if you're a good educator, you care about teaching first, regardless of what level you do it at.
Yep.
And there's something special about building something from the beginning. There's something so special about building a foundation. Yep. And that was my specialty when I did this stuff. And it was I just love taking kids, their eyes. They just, when they learn something, you have a professional, and I've taught at that level too, like world class. Yeah. And these are kids that know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Their eyes are not going to do like this because they've experienced that already. But when you touch a kid in a way that their eyes light up like, wow, I just figured something out on my own. And so
here's the funny thing. All my years of doing college, I've always coached like little kids. So whether my own kids or whatever, because like to your point, when you're out there with these little guys and something clicks for everyone, it's like, there it is.
You've exchanged knowledge to me. When you do that with a young kid, you've exchanged knowledge that is going to that's fertile. That's
Yep.
going to make them grow
Yep.
in a much bigger way on a life scale, as opposed to you're coaching the Philadelphia Union and you help somebody that's going to score a goal at the MLS level.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? There's not saying that that's not an accomplishment. Of course,
Yeah.
it's an accomplishment. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. It's
Well, we
just
talked about here. So when we were doing recruiting and worked with Ken Lola and stuff, we used to talk to the parents. We used to said, understand the college you guys pick as an athlete, that college coach or coaching staff will have a bigger influence on that your son, daughter, whatever, than anyone else, any other professor at that university. Because literally, the amount of time as coaches that we spend with these kids, who we are as people, is gonna have a big influence on them.
Right.
But look, if I'm not a good person, then your son or daughter is going to be around a bad person all the time. That's not good.
Right.
On the flip side, if I'm showing good values, good ethics, and all that comes with it as a person, well then there you go. And that's I'm sure Hacks told you, good coaches really consider themselves good teachers.
absolutely. You have
And
to be a teacher.
people ask me, well, what would you do? I would be a teacher, hands down.
Right.
If I wasn't coaching, I'd be in the classroom.
Right. So I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction because I want to get as much as we can in. Talk about the structure of the pay for play thing.
Yep.
And the technical. There's an emphasis on the technical aspect of the game. All right, not to get into the pros and cons of that. I don't want to put you in that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about there's such an emphasis on the technical aspect as opposed to kids take the ball, go run on the court. You can't. I don't know if you agree with me.
No, I'm laughing because I think you're in my head. So
You can't. I've always said you can't teach creativity. You can't. There's no way. Like when I was a musician as a kid, I took college. I remember taking a college class in improvisation. Well, I was stoned through most of it, but I mean that's what I used to do back then. But I mean, I was just like this. I'm not. How do I learn how to? How do I learn how to teach? How do I learn how to share my soul with you? And soccer players do that with their legs.
So,
can you expand on that a little bit?
And I laugh because there's going to be coaches out there who do individual training and parents.
And I'm not trying to take anything
and
away
that's
from
why-
that
that's
either.
why I laugh, because
I'm not trying to
here's-
take anything away from that. You have to know how to
Right.
do what you do to do
Right.
what you do.
So basically, here I'm going to first summarize and then go into detail. A parent will come up to me and say, "Oh, hey, is there someone you would recommend for individual training?" And I say, "Yeah, it's called a wall."
There you go.
And they look at me and say, "What do you mean?" I said,
Boom.
"I'm not trying to be mean. Tell your child to go out to the wall, kick the ball for an hour every day. You'll get more out of that." And they look at me, "Well, but it's not sexy, all right? It's not." But in reality, it's the same. Like my son, for Christmas we got my son a drum set, and I told
There you go.
And
I love the Sanchez family already.
Geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, big mistake.
So when are the open tryouts?
When's the open tryouts for the groove
Yeah.
machine? There you go.
11-year-old. Well, no, so he loves the groove machine. So
Oh, there you go.
they're at the games, and you guys would probably recognize them. You wouldn't know. They go down there by themselves. My older son and younger son.
Okay.
And they go hang out with you guys.
Really?
Because they love it. So because of you guys, my 11-year-old son, he wanted a drum set.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
we did it. Put it in the
We
basement.
take full blame.
And the whole thing, it's like, it's now look again. At a certain point, there's a skill. We're not
Of course,
dumb,
of
right?
course, of course.
But I just said, go down there and start hitting. See
Right.
what it said. See the noise and all that, and just start figuring it out a little bit.
Right.
Soccer, and I think that's why I love basketball as well. They're very similar, right? You get
Yeah,
a ball,
they're
you
awesome,
can
yeah.
you can get creative.
Go.
You can go. There's no one telling you this, that, the other, and so you go generation after generation, top players. What's the common theme? A musician, a soccer player, basketball player. They go out on their own, really, and just figure it out. Right. And then again, at a certain point, you got to have that skill instructor. But what I would always say is that skill instructor should be involved when it's more of a group setting, because the game is so dynamic. You can be wonderful technically, right? You can have the world's greatest personal trainer, and you can juggle a million times. You can do this, that, the other. You can do every trick. But if you don't know how to apply that under pressure, then quite honestly, you're useless.
Absolutely.
You're useless.
And we mentioned this on the show before. The one of the reasons that I love this game is that it engages both sides of the brain in a way that no other sport does. I'm a huge NFL fan, and God bless Eli Manning. He retired today.
Oh, man.
Love you, brother. But the whole idea is there's the strategic end of it that engages one side, and that's constant. But you don't see it unless you're trained. You don't see the artistic side of it and the fluidity of movement and the fluidity of the strategy, and it engages both sides of the brain. Hence, if you don't engage children in the one side of the brain and creativity, you got nothing.
Well, look, here's what I would argue, right? There's more kids now than ever playing soccer in this country.
Right.
And we're probably producing less special players, not good players, special players than ever before. I would argue that from the late 80s, some of the 90s.
There's a lot of math. There's a lot of math. When you watch a national team, it's math. I see math.
It is. And so what I would argue is there was a generation. So I also look at like skateboarding. I grew up in LA skateboarding.
They skateboard in LA?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
I was out there in 1985.
And it's like, why did people love it? Because it's your creativity, right? And then it becomes a little bit cookie cutter. Right now, we're kind of producing cookie cutter soccer players. Again, there's a lot of good players. But right now, there's only a few players that I would say I'll pay to watch that kid. Look, Christian, I had the pleasure of coaching.
Pulisic.
I
was just going to talk about him, right?
And a couple of events when I was helping out with the under-17s with his age group. Right. We went to Turkey with him. I went to Mexico with him and at camp with him. I don't at all claim to have done anything with the kid. Sure. I was just assistant coach on staff. But the kid, you could just see he always played. You talk to his parents, he just played. They put him, and the dad, I don't know if you've seen interviews. I don't know his dad. He specifically, his dad played soccer. They would put him just in random different little events and not always with the best teams and all that because his dad knew he just needed to play. You know what I mean? And give him the freedom to play. But otherwise, outside that, you go to some of these coaches and these practices, you watch youth teams, and it's a YouTube coaching, right? Coach pulls up, Pep Guardiola did this with Man City, and if he did it, then I'm going to do it. And then again, it is math by numbers. I say it's painting by numbers. That's a cliche I use. It's just like, okay, your ball has to go there. The kid passes it there, and you can't argue against it. But then again, it's like it's kind of boring.
And that's the thing about the artistry of this game versus you even mentioned basketball. Professional basketball, it's different.
Right.
NFL, baseball, the artistry comes in the motion after the strategy has been set.
Yep.
I'm going to set my players here, set them here. Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3, go.
Yep.
Catch, as opposed to soccer, where it's like there's motion and there's creativity and there's you have to engage both sides of the brain. I'm going to ask you something else about. You have 4 kids, you said, right?
Yep.
Ages?
16.
Oh my gosh, I just put you on the spot.
I know. I always 16, 14. My son's gonna be 12 in 4 days, and then a 10-year-old daughter.
So great ages to talk about this. And we mentioned this before. The culture today is a lot different. You grew up in California, so you remember. I'm assuming I'm older than you, but playing out in the street,
absolutely,
going out and doing stuff. Yep. Video games for me, I started. Oh my gosh, Pong. Okay, so shut up.
Hey, off topic.
I started with Adventure, so it's not
Dave
that
and
much.
Buster's. Dave and Buster's has a giant Pong.
Do they? Really?
Yes.
Hey, Frogger. All that stuff.
So it was. We would still, as a horde, go outside and play, as opposed to playing World of Warcraft and being in a horde and being inside. To me, that's part of the problem. I understand that the pay-for-play thing is a problem. It is. Mm-hmm. But there's also kids going out and doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you see that as an issue? I mean, is it not? What am I missing something? Is it?
That's a huge issue.
Okay.
I mean, so you look at generally. This is again. I'm gonna make a general statement.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
Europe, right? If you look at the different players that are considered outside the norm, right? Mm-hmm. They typically come from where? South America.
Sure.
Africa, right? What's a common link economically? Those countries
struggling.
They can't afford to have all the gadgets.
Absolutely.
So what's going on in those countries still is the free play. Right. European academies, amazing good players, right? It's a little robotic. Mm-hmm. You cannot. Again, I'm not saying that they're world class.
Sure.
But right now, when people are looking to buy someone to make your team different. Typically, where they go, South America or Africa, sure. Because there's that element as a coach. You need someone that's outside the box.
Sure.
Isn't that what Atlanta did when they started up?
Yes, they did a great job.
Yes,
they're doing a lot. Atlanta does a great job doing like soccer in the streets as a community. I don't know if you saw, they have futsal courts everywhere. They launched a program which is one of the coolest things that it doesn't get enough press. Basically, with their transit system, the train and subway. there's a few stops right when you get off. There's futsal courts, literally right next to
That's
it.
awesome.
And they did one time a tournament where it was like a rotating tournament. Like they would stop, play a game, take the train, play a game, take the train, play a game.
That's awesome.
It's
That is phenomenal.
awesome. And, what's funny here is that last year we opened up 3 community fields that are completely free, down the south end and the west side of town that we help fundraise for. And I go out there and play as much as I can. I take my kids out there, and it is pure pickup. It's predominantly a lot of the great migrant people that we have in this community.
Sure.
I'm trying to get people from the east end of town to go down there.
Right.
But it's just you show up, you play, you have your group of 5-minute games, first to 2, you lose, you sit, you win, you stay.
Right.
Nice.
And it's what the game's all about. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's, here's an opportunity. I mean, if you'd like to tell everybody about some of the outreach things that are going on through the club, I mean, please let us know.
Yeah, so it's a big passion of mine. People, it's funny because I'm literally not on social media. It's not my thing.
You're the smartest guy at this table.
you know what's funny is like when people say when I tell them, they look at me like, "Oh, come on." I say, "No, really, go ahead and try to find me." And then they say, "Man, you're smart."
In some language, in some Martian language, Twitter equals cesspool. So go ahead.
I can't do it. How am I supposed to tell somebody in Cincinnati that they suck
Okay.
if I can't get on social media?
You drive up there.
Yeah, right. Right.
No.
Right.
Go to the bar. No, so
Right.
I have a huge passion for just helping people, helping kids, and using soccer as a platform to bring people together. So I mean everything from we do stuff. Churchill Downs. They have a foundation. They call it the Backside Learning Center.
Oh.
We did stuff with the couple of the elementary schools on the south side of town that literally kids have never played the sport of soccer. I had a couple of teachers reach out to me and started showing up in a basketball gym, just bring some soccer balls, getting kids playing. Again, at Beachmont Community Center, we were doing free clinics on Saturdays for anyone that showed up.
Oh.
The Newcomer Academy, doing stuff with them. There's a big one. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. It's one of the community centers, actually really close to Beachmont.
Well, is there?
So, anyways, but
the point being
is
You talking about Wyandotte?
well, we did stuff at Wyandotte as well, but
Right.
I think the point is that we have an opportunity as LouCity to really, I think, unify this community
Exactly.
using soccer.
Exactly.
I think first and foremost, again, it is the beautiful game, and I don't say it's not like a style thing. It's beautiful because it truly brings different cultures together.
Absolutely.
You show up with a ball. We all know this.
Absolutely.
It's a cliche. You show up somewhere with a ball. It doesn't matter where you're at. You could probably stop, like they say, wars. I mean, if people start.
It
kicking
has
the ball
stopped
out.
wars.
Literally, it has. Right.
It has.
So I thought, when they hired me, I said, look, guys, I said, one of the things that I'm going to do, not only just try to get this whole youth thing going, but I'm going to get on the community. And I try to average 1 or 2 events a week that are free. I mean, anyone who just shows up and kids, again, whether it's through the elementary schools or through community centers or just people reaching out to us, we just show up. And we do it on the east side of town. We do it anywhere.
Okay.
So people reach out. And one thing that's awesome about our team, the first team, the pro guys, is that they have huge hearts. And
they've done a great
my
job
gosh.
in that. They've done a great job.
It's wild.
No one could take away from that.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, if I just text, I'll send out a text. Hey, I'm going here, guys. Can I get 2 or 3 of you? And it's not even like begging right away. Yep, right. Coach, we'll come with you. It's cool. They love it, and it makes everyone feel so good. And I think that's for my wife and I, when we had the opportunity to move back here, it was almost a no-brainer because it's like, okay, soccer's cool, but first and foremost, the people are cool. You know what I mean? And you just have a group of people in this community that just are cool people.
Let me go back then. I wanted to ask. I ask everybody that comes on here. Your first couple of days in Louisville. What do you say to yourself?
Well, I'll take it back. When I was at University of Akron, I worked with Ken Lola. Right? He comes down.
Great
gets
guy.
a job at U of L. Mm-hmm. I go to UNLV. I was the head coach at UNLV.
Were you really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Vegas for a couple years.
Come on.
Wow.
Different.
That's awesome. Wow. I could ask you an hour about trying to coach in Vegas with all the stuff that goes on out there.
Okay, real quick. So
go ahead,
the funny thing was
please.
being the head coach at UNLV. In some aspects, it was a little bit easier because the bars and the casinos are so strict with carding.
Yes, they have to be.
They have to be. So ironically, like for our younger players, if they weren't 21, it was actually it was a little bit harder for them to party.
See, there was such a cultural stigma with gambling. Going back in the day before they opened up the city to professional gambling or professional sports, and you always thought of it the place to go, and it turns out anybody that I've ever talked to about that, like, it's not the place to go.
Right.
It was the one place you didn't want to go to play college sports or play pro sports because they were so restrictive on it. It's amazing.
I mean, when I got
Really
hired
funny.
there, the compliance director's like, he's like, you think NCAA is hard? We're gonna, and they.
That's awesome.
So, but it was cool.
No, that's great.
But yeah, so
And
Ken called,
for the record, Hawaii is the place to go.
Oh, okay.
So here's a little quick fact for you. Outside Hawaii, Vegas has, I think, the biggest Hawaiian population outside of Hawaii.
Really?
No, because of the job opportunities, the heat, and stuff like that. So we had 2 Hawaiian boys, and one boy actually came to me when I came over to U of L. But so to your point of the whole thing with Ken and Louisville, just Louisville in general, he calls me up and says, "Hey, love for you to come out to U of L. There's a great thing happening here. Soccer is booming. Would you be interested?" And I'm thinking, I had been to, when I was at Akron, we played U of L. Mm-hmm. That was my experience of Kentucky. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see. I'm Hispanic. I got a son named Sebastian, a son named Santiago. Now my wife, she's Caucasian, the whole thing.
Right.
And I told Ken, I said, I'll come because of you, Ken. I said, I'll take a look, but Kentucky, it's Louisville.
Right.
And he goes, trust me, you'll flip out. He's like, it's cool.
Yeah, those two statements mean very different things. It's Kentucky and it's Louisville.
Right.
I mean, very.
So we get out here, and we came out for 3 days, brought the whole family and the whole thing, and it was like, this is cool.
There's something about this city.
It is, and then
I don't know what it is.
It just keeps.
I mean, I came from New York.
Back. It's so cool.
I mean, it's hard to tell from my accent, but I came from the Newark area. New York.
New York area.
Yeah, and there's just something special.
It is.
You still get the city vibe,
Yep.
but there's something, for lack of a better word, serene. Yep. I mean, what's the word I'm looking for?
All I can tell you is
there's trees everywhere. There's a little space. You know.
Right.
I think it has just enough. Again, I'm from LA, so I wanted enough of a city, but I don't want the madness.
LA has too much. I was out there. I lived. You know what I'm saying? You just get pounded with culture and life.
Yeah.
And same thing with New York.
Yeah.
It becomes white noise. It's just everything all the time.
Yeah.
24/7, and to get away from that.
Yep.
But still experience some of the culture and some of the stuff that you can experience artistically and whatever in Louisville that you wouldn't have.
Here's
say,
when I was sold. We went to Havana Rumba. Had a meal there. Said, "All right, we're in."
Right down the street.
I know, we were just like we brought the first time my dad years ago when he came out, and my family, my mom and dad and everyone. And I told my dad, I said, "All right, we're gonna take you to Cuban food." And he's like, "Come on, come on." Now I know obviously that there's a huge Cuban population here, and we went to Havana Rumba, and I'm just telling you right now, as a Cuban, that place is amazing.
So I've got to ask it before I pass this over to Derek because there's a bunch of people had questions.
People are really excited about you, and they have lots of questions.
So I have to ask this, and I've been asking people this a lot. Like I said, having my mom and dad coming from cultures where politically, religiously, there was a lot of issues, and it impacted their lives in a very heavy way. You just mentioned your dad coming over when Castro took over in the 60s. Does the soccer culture politically, from that perspective, was that a place that you look for refuge, or is it a place where you expect the activism? It's a very heavy question.
Well, that's cool. Really cool question.
I
would say it's 50-50, quite honestly, for me. Because of growing up in LA, I played with so many Hispanic guys. Like the team we played with. Here's the funniest thing: the team we played with grew up in LA. We were almost all Hispanics. We had an English coach. And our team was called we were called Arsenal. The team was
Why
an
not?
Arsenal fan.
Why not?
Yeah.
It was a true story. We went over to England and we actually played Manchester United. I was 16 years old.
Come on.
And so this is the early 90s where
it's a whole different animal.
And we had
our coach in LA. There was an Arsenal.
So our coach.
I was out there. At that
time. When he would go to the UK, he brought us actual kits back from Arsenal. So we were in full Arsenal kit. Wow. And we're playing Man U. And here are all these Hispanic guys.
Wow.
And after the game, their coach is like, "Who are you guys? Where are you guys from? Are you associated with the club?" And the whole thing.
That's awesome. That is so
But
awesome.
No, it's really unique because what I would say is in LA, it was just part of the culture. I mean, because so many people play soccer.
Sure.
So, but I think here originally when it came to Louisville, I think it was a little bit of activism because it was it's so mainstream now, but early on it was kind of, I want to say counter culture, but you had a little bit of edge to you if you played soccer. You were different.
Sure.
You had different sometimes political views, look, it was the whole thing. Oh, you're communist. You play soccer, you're communist.
Yeah, right. And that's what we ran into when I was a kid.
Yep.
Because being a soccer fan, well, I'm not going to say. I'm going to take that back a little bit because soccer was very popular where I grew up as well. But the difference between on the West, and I lived in California in the mid '80s. The difference between being on the coasts, the multicultural aspect of the East Coast was European and South American, and as opposed to what I experienced on the West Coast, which was primarily South American and Mexico.
Yep.
But there's still a vibrancy between the I don't want to use the word conflict. That's not the good word. But the conversation that would have politically, and it would bleed itself into the game in the East, but not into the games. I don't know how to say this. Like you would have Italian, you would have, you know what I'm saying? You'd have Irish.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on, and you'd have. There was.
The Greeks out there and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was.
There was very unique. And my mom grew up during the Spanish Civil War. I mean, you know, she experienced a very intense, just like your dad did.
So here's some. I see where you're going with this. So really good examples. Again, late '80s, early '90s, no MLS and all that. The LA Coliseum, people don't realize this, used to host once a month international matches.
Come on, go ahead.
This thing, it was awesome. Now, no one outside the Latin Hispanic community knew this because they only advertised back then. It was Univision, and again, there's no real internet and all that. So the only people knew is you had to be in the Hispanic community. And what they would do is they'd bring up a Mexican team, say let's just say Chivas versus a Guatemalan team. Mm-hmm. You want to see hostility?
That's my point.
I used to,
exactly.
And here you again on a daily basis. These people are interacting, they're working together, and then all of a sudden you brought their home teams for their homelands, and it was war. It was like, and I used to bring some of my quote unquote American friends. And I used to tell them, come over to these games, and they're like, you're crazy, and it was wild. No one knew it. So 40,000 people, 50,000 at the Coliseum, and we would watch again. Let's just a Club America from Mexico versus a Guatemalan team, okay?
Right.
And it was wild, and
because
like
they bring
beers throwing. It was never like total fights, but then the game would be over. You get on this in the parking lot. It's cool again.
Everybody's done.
Yeah,
and that was awesome. The thing. Like I remember Cosmo's game going back when I was a big MLS fan back in the '70s, and there was an international game between Spain. I want to say it was Spain and Portugal, and it was after the Cosmos game. So we all stuck around. Obviously, my family's Spanish. And there were people marching around. I was like 12, 13 years old. España. Oh, Spanish. We're going to get there. No.
Yeah.
Communist. And it was just like, oh, I'm not supposed to go up there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it was just like, oh. And that's what I'm saying. We talk about, I'll get to Derek, and he's got some questions. I'm sorry. I'm just fascinated by this topic, because we don't talk about this stuff enough.
Yep.
And people talk about the political aspect and doing the it's the game first. At the end of the day, it's the game first.
Right.
And if it's not about the game first, what are you doing?
Right.
I don't,
oh, absolutely. I mean, we used to laugh. You'd have, the Eastern Bloc before everything that changed, again, back in the 80s. You know what I mean? And you want to talk about, you go to a men's league game when, different type of Eastern Europeans were playing each other. Watch out. And again, it was war. I mean, it was war.
And I'm hoping. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, but then to your point, like the game was over, and after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it calmed down, then you go back to being your normal way. But those games meant a lot more than just the soccer game. There was a lot of politics involved in those games, 100%.
And that's I'm hoping someday we could do a show specifically with some folks that have been through the culture that are here right now.
Yep.
But anyway, you want to? There's a bunch of social media questions for you.
Let's do it,
please.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Beardless Whelp. I have no idea who that is. Thank you for the follow. I'd also like to thank ZLove710 for that follow.
Hi, ZLove.
Advice Giver, which I believe is, I think that's Anthony.
Anthony Advice Giver.
Shot us a host, which we don't get very often.
Thank you.
It's basically another channel opened up, and now he's hosting us from the channel.
I really appreciate that.
Cool.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And lots of comments going on. Of course, everyone wants me to interact with them, but I don't fall for that.
Derek's a lover, not an interactor.
So we got a lot of questions. I did a little bit of work.
What that means, and at the same time, I don't.
I did a little bit of work. I did a little bit of work with the Rovers. So I was the GM for the Rovers the year before they folded.
Okay.
And I get some of these questions I can answer, but I'd love to hear the way that you answer them.
Oh, I think it's great because a lot of people have asked me the relationship. So go.
And I can ask you several, but
go.
yeah. So some people, like Daniel Rankin, and these are coming off of Facebook.
Yeah.
So he says if a first team player is injured, can you call up a player from your League 2 team and have them, because that's a contractual thing, but
No.
so can you do that?
So the rules are, hey, this is NCAA wise. Once a kid enters the NCAA college, they cannot play in an official game with a pro.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. A high school kid can.
Right.
Which is
right.
hence Elijah, right? Everyone's like, oh, how can it be? If a college kid can't do it, why can't Elijah? It's an NCAA rule, basically, because he's not in the NCAA. So Elijah is eligible for any game with a first team. On the flip side, a first team player cannot play with us in the new under 23 team in a game, because it would jeopardize any college kid we had on that roster. It's a really weird rule. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to impact the question I had later.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to structure these in a way where it makes sense, so I'm not bouncing you around.
You're on this show. It doesn't
don't,
really matter.
listen, if you saw my grades in school, I mean, don't worry about it. Nothing makes sense to me.
A lot of I think a lot of this question has been answered just through things that I've seen on social media, but I'm sure they'd love to hear it come from you. What places are you guys looking to play? And I know one of them is Worley, which I've always said Worrell. So is Worley going to be the home field? Is essentially
basically what we're trying to do is make it a kind of a road show,
round robin kind of.
Yeah, we want to.
Nice.
We're talking to New
That's
Albany,
good. That's good.
obviously Worley. There's talk, whether it's maybe in Spalding we've talked to.
Excellent.
The new stadium, Lynn Family Stadium, do a game or two in there.
That's fantastic.
Even if we go down maybe to E-Town, they have the complex. So it's a way to spread soccer. Yeah. So right now, people have asked me that a lot too. Yes, Worley for sure is one of the complexes. Again, Lynn Family Stadium will probably a game or two, and then we're kind of going to go from there.
I'm just hoping that I'm hoping for a couple double headers.
Yep.
But I need to know when those are so I can make sure I Uber.
Well,
Because
two
soccer games, there's no way I'm driving.
So there will not be any double headers. So people ask that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. That's a good answer.
No double headers.
No double headers. Two reasons. One, just the facility.
Sure.
Brand new facility. We don't know. The grass. We got to make sure that's
Sure. Absolutely.
pristine. And then just time wise, people don't realize the doubleheader in soccer is a long day because you got to talk. The warm up for each team, and so
That is
you even look at U of L, like they rarely do it now, and because it ends up being, as much as some people say they want it and you do it, they're like, oh man, that's like 6-7 hours, and
Damn.
And then you factor in the 5 hours of tailgating beforehand.
it's a 24-hour job.
So my heart is sad, but my liver's like, dude, that's awesome.
yeah.
I've got some questions. This is Eric Belmonte has a very close Bolivian friend by the name of Carlos Gorena. He says, and these are, if you can't answer any of these questions, I'm sure that you get the So, will the club be paying for living arrangements for U23 players?
I'll answer that. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can. So,
Right.
we want this team to be, if we can, as local as possible.
Sure.
So some of the teams in this league, NCAA rule-wise, you're absolutely allowed to give housing. You can actually give them food. You can give them jobs, like with camp and stuff like that. So it's legal. Like one of the teams we're going to be playing, Flint City, who was in I think they won it last year.
Yes, they did.
That's one of my questions.
Yeah,
how are you going to deal with the
old
Bucks?
Right. They do an amazing job.
Yes.
It's literally all sorts around the country. They give the kids apartments and the whole thing.
Yep.
Our model, we want kids either who are, again, for the most part, local kids. There'll be kids from like this under 17 team I have, U of L kids, Bellarmine kids, Spalding kids. We want this team to be a local team.
Right.
There's one or two kids that we're talking to that have ties here locally, but we want it to be predominantly local. So with that, we will not be having any housing.
I'd say that's the best answer in the world, because the only way to build a foundation is if there's a kid that lives in, I don't know, Indianapolis or whatever. Go play with them.
Yeah.
Go play with them. That's how you build a foundation.
Well, so what's cool right now is with us doing it, and I think New Mexico. I heard New Mexico.
They're doing amazing work.
They're going to do a team as well. I know Tampa was. If they haven't announced it, So a lot of the USL championship teams are looking to do what we're doing. Because it just, again, I think from community-wise, it makes sense. And then if you have some sort of youth programming, it's a big, big advantage to have this opportunity for these kids to play against college-age, men in essence.
Right.
And then you have a good understanding. For a kid like Elijah, look, we hope he does well.
Sure.
If he's not getting minutes with the first team, he needs to get minutes with men.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be great for him as well.
Right.
Yep.
You answered probably 3 or 4 of these questions just with that. Let's see what we've got. Do you okay, Eric Belmonte, and I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. He wants to know, do you think that Pro Rel will happen within USL within the next maybe 3 to 5 years?
Ooh, that
in the
early,
direction they're going.
I think it's definitely a conversation. I don't know if it'll happen that quick.
Right.
I think the reason why is so many USL championship teams are expanding their stadiums. So what I look at, this is just my opinion. I'm putting it out there right now, people.
Right.
My opinion. If I'm an owner and I just build, whether it's ours, Colorado Springs,
That's right.
Rhode Island's coming in with a stadium.
Queens.
Yeah, Queens, Via. So if you were to say, hey, guess what? You have to build, a stadium or invest, and then within 1 year, you could get relegated.
Right.
I think it'd be hard for an owner to say, yeah, I'm going to pass that.
But that's I think that, Edwards opened that door. And that's on Edwards because he's the one that has said this multiple times that he's like, we're open to that idea.
Yeah.
So when Landon Donovan down in San Diego or Dempsey down in Memphis says, I'm going to buy a team, you're not buying a team without knowing that this is a possibility.
Right.
Now it could be it could be BS. I don't think it is.
I think they're sincere about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I say, is it 3 to 5 years? I would say it's probably
much longer.
Longer.
Because I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I think the infrastructure is not there yet.
That's what I think. Right. Even the League One, you had which one folded already? One of the League One teams folded.
A team.
One of the teams folded.
Fresno's
in the championship. But a League One team, the division below us, in between us and the.
No, you're right. You're right. There was.
It wasn't Madison, but one of them already folded.
Was it a Michigan team? It was a Michigan. Lansing.
Yeah.
Lansing. Yeah.
Oh.
And here's the thing.
So, again, if you're going to have that, the infrastructure's not there yet.
Lansing has a really good support structure.
Well,
I think that was probably an ownership thing.
That was the one where the owner also owned a minor league baseball team, and he's wanting to
I
make
don't
money
know
from day one.
Yeah.
And here's let me piggyback on this onto once again. I'm dogging on purist, but being a person that would love to see Pro Rel someday, when they start talking about Division 4 and moving Division 4 teams. Here you are talking about Division 4. Our Division 4 team is a bunch of university kids. Right. So how do you promote a university, a Division 4 team that plays 3 months? I mean, what is the schedule? They start May 19th. If I saw that.
Yeah.
How do you promote a Division 4 team into Division 3 when they're a bunch of university kids
and they play 8 games?
Right. Yeah. It's just not mature enough to even consider talking about. So the purist gets angry, but at the same time, you start talking about the pros of that. If there are Division 4 teams that build their own unique independent structure,
maybe
they should have an opportunity to move up too. Yeah. So that's to me, that's the whole point of what you were talking about. One of the big issues that I wanted to have this show. We have something very different that the purists don't discuss. We have a university and scholastic system that is never going anywhere. It should never go anywhere. I love it. Yep. I think it's wonderful.
Yep.
And we have an academy system that we're trying to build. Let's do something new. Right. And that's what sounds like that you're trying to build yourself, is that you're trying to build something that's symbiotic that can, without worrying about, well, that's the way they do it over there. There is no over there.
No,
we're doing it
first.
Unique.
Let's do our own thing. I mean, I consider myself, I know it sounds weird saying, I'm full American in a sense, but it sounds weird because, I'm born here and all that. Yeah, my parents were immigrants.
So am I.
I love this country. I love what soccer's given to me. Let's be us.
Right.
We don't have to be
anybody else.
Let's be us. Let's be different.
Being a hybrid doesn't make it what's the word I'm looking for? Being a hybrid doesn't make it unnatural.
Right.
It could still be ourselves. Now, nobody has a comment. The MLS thing doesn't work for me, but that's just me and how they're doing it, and it's about profit. Because then, if it's purely about profit, it's not going to work. for me. When you start talking about building a culture that's somewhere in between, if that angers the purist, well, you're angry. I'm sorry.
Right.
Stay angry.
Right.
Have a nice snack before you go to bed. Wake up angry. I don't know what to tell you because there are every country has their own unique culture.
Right.
Work with that. That's all I'm saying. I don't. Go ahead.
I'm just noticing the stream's frozen.
We're good here.
Okay, we're good here.
It's probably my PlayStation. Or the
Okay,
TV.
because it went to the Groove Machine like nighttime thing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
No, we're still up. Oh, we're reconnecting.
Okay.
We dropped the feed.
Okay. I'm gonna take these off my head so I can stop getting.
I don't know what's going on with the internet.
Aliens.
Yeah.
But we're only going to be another 10 minutes or so.
I'm going to try and directly reconnect instead of restarting my modem.
Yeah.
This is never... We went down earlier, just
Storm.
out of nowhere. And look, and now I got it right back up.
Yeah.
Go back up. Oh, and somebody just messaged me on here to let me know that it went down.
Hold on, let me make
So
sure.
here they come. Here they come.
make
Hey,
sure.
Joe, the best of feed's down.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we've reconnected.
Sorry about
that. This is the first time in our show's history
We've
where the
ever had a
Wi-Fi has started acting up. So
Come on, Derek, get it together.
Okay, so the
I blame Spectrum.
competitively now obviously it's a new experience, but competitively we still want to win.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Part of here's what's it's again, we're Hack, myself, James. We all line up, and Brad Estes, by the way. Here's part of development. People don't forget is winning. Like learning how to win is part of it. I personally, I think U.S. Soccer on the Development Academy League that they started and it's been going. I think they've done a better job getting it corrected, but early on.
What's that?
It still looks like it's down.
We're according to this, we are 100% connected.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Early on, it was too much about theory, and to me, if you get good coaches, right, that still can teach the game properly, you have to teach how to win.
Right.
Doesn't mean again, we all want to. I don't say we all, but sometimes people hide. I think on youth development, too much behind the theory behind it. Now look, there's a fine line. I mean, you can't just go out there and have kids killing each other, and
Sure.
And when I say bad soccer, like we want to get the ball down, we want to play, and all that. I think it's good coaching. You know what I mean? But you have to teach kids how to win, especially as they get older. To the group right now I'm working with specifically, and obviously this U23 team. If Hack or whoever pro coach is looking at those kids, they want to know those kids know how to lay in a game, win a game.
Right.
So if you're a defender, like there's certain times, you got to put your foot through it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And forwards, you got to finish your chance. There's little things that, as a coach, my responsibility is to also make sure these kids understand that.
Yeah, and that's the competitive aspect of winning games with a academy team versus teaching, and then you have the added aspect of the scholastic aspect of it as well. It takes a certain personality to make that work, and just I've never hung out with you before, and I'm not saying this to patronize you. I mean, there's a brightness hanging out with you that I'm just like, this is. No, I mean that. I mean that.
Look,
but it's not just you. I mean, Hackworth was on here. There's a pureness to him as well, and James O'Connor's going to be on here next week, and the honesty that he brings as well. That I've gotten to know him. You three guys, I've said this before. For what you do and your roles on this team, we're as good as anything we got going on around here.
no, I appreciate it. We like to think so.
But you should think that there should be a confidence to that, and that's what we want. That's what we want as supporters.
Look, I think what you have that's again, it is unique, is you have three people that first and foremost love Louisville. I go back to that, right?
That's
because
what I'm saying. There's something
it's
about
just like
this area.
It brought me back. You know what I mean? And Hacks can't come here. He had different opportunities. He's here. You know what I mean? James here for different reasons. But we're all here. You know what I mean? And it's a really unique. So I think first and foremost, you have an organization. You have local owners. People don't understand how important that is. Again, I have friends in other teams, and their owners don't live there.
That are not NFL owners.
That just
Right.
you know
They
what I mean?
care about this first.
Right. That is huge. I mean, we get to see our owners. One of them, someone, they come by on a daily basis almost. So
awesome.
that's unique.
Right. And looking forward as far as you're going to be moving around. Are you okay?
Yeah, everything's good.
Okay. No, I'm worried. As far as now, speaking as supporters of the teams, what can we do as supporters to make sure that the academy team is supported? Look, we're not going to have 10,000 kids, obviously, but we still want to have a level. We could. We still want to have a level support for them. Can we approach this from a support standpoint, almost as you're doing, Southern Indiana, East End? Maybe reach out to the people in those specific areas.
Well, I think I think once we formally announce where games will be played for the League 2 team, the under 23 team, right. I think it's all of us galvanizing just different communities that maybe have not been to a game, or a friend that hasn't been to a game. You know what I mean? And just share with them why soccer's cool.
Right.
And what's unique about our sport and why it's so different.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then I think, James and I have been meeting with the different clubs and different leaders in the youth soccer world. And we're telling them is, look, ultimately, guys, all we want is soccer to grow.
Right.
That's what our number one goal is. Let's get more kids playing, more people coming to games, more people enjoying the sport. We all benefit. Now, look, we're different. We love the sport. We think that it's the coolest thing ever.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if we can just show some people, like, this is why it's cool to us, right? Come to a game. And then if it's eventually, when the women's team comes, I'm telling you right now, that's one of the coolest things.
That was the next question.
That is, I have my daughters. Go ahead.
And how great is it to watch people go from, I don't know about soccer, to, okay, we're getting season tickets. Isn't that the greatest thing?
Dude, true story. When Wayne, God bless him, was here, he came to Ken and I and said, hey, I'm thinking about bringing a USL team to Louisville. Ken and I said, Wayne, are you crazy?
Right.
Like, man, like, that'd be cool, but you sure? He's like, and anyone who knew Wayne, once Wayne had an idea, he ran with it. You know what I mean? Exactly. So now to see where this is at, and you look at that stadium's being built and all the things, and the kids playing and stuff like that. I mean, forget about it.
Yep. So, and what is the from an academy perspective, the interaction with the NWSL side and making sure the women's the women's side is fairly supported?
Oh yeah, so
there has to be equal.
So I mean, little stuff. Oh, absolutely. So even like this under 23 team, on the women's side, there's a league called the WPSL.
Right.
And that's something we're going to look into. So it's going to be, look, we're soccer people, and I joke with people. Look, again, my wife played.
Right.
I have two girls that play, but no, it's soccer. It's you got we're going to have potential women's national team players here and stuff like that. So no, I mean we're on board, and there's absolutely, you won't see any difference between the boys side, the women's side. It's all one. I mean, it's all one club and working together.
I don't understand how. What's the matter?
Oh no, I was just gonna get in on that a little bit.
Do it.
Go.
So you were on shortly after you came here. You were on Barrel Proof.
Yep.
And the one question I really wanted to get in was at the time whether there was a girls' academy in progress. And unfortunately, the answer was no then. But how far along is it now? And did the boys' academy really? Did laying the groundwork for that do a lot for
basically because the USL has some platforms on the boys' side right now.
Right.
And so we're working with the NWSL. That's what's unique is we're going to be in two different complete organizations.
Sure.
Right.
So I've already had communication with the NWSL. Some of the stuff they're looking to do on the women's side, young girl side. U.S. Soccer has some stuff they're doing. So that's part of what James and I are doing right now is looking at all the options as well on the girls' side.
Okay.
To eventually have it hand in hand, step by step, working together.
Yeah, and that's, I think there's so much of a desire from the supporters. I can't say from the city. I have no idea. The NWSL side is our ticket. I really, really believe this, to take the next step in this community to move it forward.
Oh yeah.
Period.
This
is it.
Period.
And for us to use that, and I'm going to use the word use because once again it's symbiotic. Cultures use sports teams, the arts, to advance what they're about. The arts and sports use the society to come see it.
I think it's going to make maybe I'm just too optimistic, but I think nationally,
right,
once our women's team opens up,
changes,
I think people are going to be like, whoa, what's going on?
And we'll be the first city in America ever that a women's team is the gateway to opening up a whole new avenue for this city.
Yep.
It's never happened before.
Yep.
That's why I'm so happy to see this happening here. And that's with the emphasis on you've already answered it. You've already answered it that there's an equal emphasis, which is what everybody wants to hear. We already talked about also the men's side of making sure that there's a certain area that we're looking into. Is the approach the same on the women's side though? Because you're only talking about 9 professional women's teams at the Division I, as opposed to 874 that they got.
Now, are you talking at the youth
NWSL
level?
No, NWSL level.
Well,
Okay?
I mean, yeah, it's going to be.
But
yeah.
and you feed into that. So it to me, it's a different approach because, there's very defined areas of influence from an MLS perspective because there's 30 some.
Right.
There's only 9 teams, and we're going to be the 10th.
Right.
That area expands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is that something that we try to explore? I mean, you don't have to answer that.
I think. I mean, look, these are my ideas. I think on the pro side of the women's team, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, just the number of players and stuff like that, and where where you look, it's a whole different ballgame. From a youth side, the emphasis will always
be local.
Yeah, local. I mean, for sure. You know what I mean? Again, like anything, who wouldn't want to see some of our local girls, rise up? And in the short term, if it's someone from U of L, from Bellarmine, wherever,
right,
that ends up, coming through. I mean, I went to a couple of U of L women's games this year with my daughter. I mean, they had Karen Ferguson did an amazing job there, playing in, arguably the best conference in the ACC for women's soccer.
Right.
I mean, she did an amazing job. Mm-hmm. It was fun to watch.
Right.
So to see that, if we can get some of those girls maybe through the draft. But, first and foremost, I guess I take it back right now to this U23 team because it's unique. When we talked to the owners about this team, Hack and I, initially it was, hey, we want this to be local. Because, again, there is a different way. There's the Buck, the Flint City group that used to be called the Bucks. Mm-hmm. We could have said, hey, let's open it up. Let's get some apartments, and we'll go around the whole country and just
and turn it right.
But we were no. We want this to be for opportunity for local players.
Right, and that's and it's the definition of what is local. When you talk about the men's game right now, which is more matured from a professional perspective than the women's is. Local for Louisville is Louisville. Local for NWSL, arguably, it's Indianapolis. I mean, it really is when you start talking about. The women's side, because Cincinnati is local because there's
nothing there. Right?
The closest team is Chicago, and then after that, who's
Carolina?
Maybe Carolina. I mean, that's 750 miles away. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm wondering. I'm kind of hoping that there's a footprint. I'm going to ask you another question too when you start talking about. You mentioned before about there's this wealth of untapped potential, talent-wise, in Louisville. I think there's a tremendous opportunity from a partnership perspective with a non-MLS side overseas.
Oh, yeah.
And because if I'm the owner of a side in the EPL, or if I'm an owner in Italy, and I'm looking at this chunk of land with 1 million people in it
right.
that no one's cultivated yet,
Yeah.
with a team, like Leipzig with Red Bulls.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously, I'm not even going to. I would never ask anybody. I think that's a valid thought process. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think those are different things that we have to look at. You know what I mean? It's unique, and now it's do you look at teams overseas that also have a women's program and the men?
Absolutely.
So I think
too.
we're finally getting to the point, where we're ready to have those conversations.
Right.
Again, it's crazy to think. And Evan Floyd and I talk about this. That
Evan Floyd, I like Evan. He's a nice guy.
How much success we've had here, because we feel like we've been here forever. When I say we, LouCity.
Well, 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like because all the success.
When they started here, I was in my 40s.
So
that's forever ago.
That's
my
true.
old ass, that's forever ago.
So so much has been
You
built.
turned 40 this year, right?
Yeah.
You were in your 30s when they started. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Boom. So much has been built in such a short time.
Yeah.
And so like stuff like that, I mean, it's just early on when James was here, it was like that was the last thing on the mind was let's go find a partnership.
Right.
So it was always been, and I've
survive,
agreed.
yeah.
Let's just nail this.
Right.
And I think even right now it's okay. We got to nail the new stadium. Then we got to nail the women's team, and then we got to nail the youth. So those opportunities to eventually, get abroad and look at different potential partnerships, eventually we got to get there.
And here's a unique, one more thing I was thinking about. There's a unique challenge as far as you mentioned overseas. When I see what's going on in EPL with the women's game, we've seen tremendous growth.
Crazy.
Spain.
Yep.
I think Spain's going to take this game over. I really, really do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want the U.S. team to win. I want every U.S. team in every sport. I don't care what the sport. If it's tiddlywinks, I want all our teams to win everything. But when I saw Spain in the World Cup against the United States, that opened it opened my eyes big time, because there was beauty to what they did and the creative side that we didn't have.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, once they mature what they have, we're in trouble. Now, I don't want us to be in trouble. I want us to win, but you have to be honest about what you see coming forward.
I hope it pushes us, because I would agree with you. I mean, when you see technically how the girls play, their movements and stuff like that, I mean, our athletes here, our female athletes here in America are amazing.
Outstanding. Absolutely.
Outstanding, right?
The world's greatest.
Right.
The world's greatest.
Hands down, you know what I mean? But what some of these countries, they're catching up quick. And I hope, you know what I mean, that it makes us sharper. I mean, the old adage, right? Steel makes steel sharp. I mean, we got to get there. We need to step it up again.
And that's a challenge, I think. What's the challenge do you foresee with the men's program, which is way more cohesive right now, as opposed to the women's program or nationally, a little more disjunct, right? I mean, our women's programs here are not aligned with MLS. One of the things that always angered me about MLS, when they start talking about all the diversity, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but we're diverse, but, let's take a look at my wallet. Nah, we can't spend on women. And that always made me angry.
Yeah.
I mean, and here we are trying to keep up with the Arsenals of the world. EPL figured this out and it's not long ago.
Yeah.
We're not talking about 20 years ago. It's only a few years ago.
The strides they're making is crazy.
Oh, by the way, let's add, and all of a sudden, boom, they're competing with us.
So Friday
in
night,
half a generation.
This past Friday night, my daughter and I were watching Liga MX, the women's.
The Mexican women are amazing.
I mean, they're on national TV already.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't see the same structure here, and that's what concerns me. And I'm wondering, now, we can't solve that problem, but I'm wondering from your perspective, making sure that the men have this path and the women have a sort of a different path. Unique challenge. Have you discussed that at all?
A little bit, just because like this year, if you saw the NWSL draft, they had a few girls. One of the girls from Stanford was a junior. She left Stanford early.
There you go. That's a sign.
That was a sign.
That's a sign.
Okay, so for anybody, I would say female, for anybody to leave Stanford early, as a junior to give up that degree. Now I'm sure she's got plans to get it, but to leave to go to the NWSL draft, I thought that was kind of a moment,
right.
And I know talking to some of the female coaches in the college game, they do see slowly like the money right is becoming.
Yes,
legitimate.
They raised the base salary in NWSL last year,
which is fantastic.
Yes,
you know what I mean? So I'm hoping this year, to me, it was kind of like that moment where, okay, you know what I mean? I think us coming into the league is really, we're pushing the owners of the other NWSL teams, which is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? I think, like I said, I think we're going to your point, Joe, earlier, on the women's side, us coming into the league, I think we're going to have a big effect nationally.
I think so too.
On women's soccer.
This could be a
arrogant,
game
but
changer.
I think it is.
I hate to say it, I'm not trying to grandstand or be fantastic about it, but this could be a game changer. This literally could be a game changer here. Is there anything going on over there on the social media thing, or do you want to add anything at all?
Not at the moment. I think we're everything is kind of flowing back in from where the stream went down.
Okay.
Which
tomorrow
this weekend, I'm going to figure out why that was happening.
So anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this. Is there anything? Always ask anybody if you want to take a minute, just discuss anything you want about anything. Just do it. Whatever.
Wow,
I know it's a big question. It's big. It's big. But
I do have questions.
Okay. Do you want to do? You can gather your thoughts.
Yeah. So you might have touched on this when I was running around trying to figure out the cable modem. So are you, and you, I really think that you probably answered this. So do you want to get the U23s up to a point where we can beat these like the Fall City Bucks or I'm sorry, the Bucks? I can't remember where they're based right now.
Look,
Michigan.
So a lot of people focus on they just want the talent and they want to build the youth. But I know a lot of people are going to ask, well, do we want to go up and do we want to beat the Bucks? Do we want to beat? And I can't forget. I think that you guys are going to be Great Lakes, right?
Yep.
So
people don't. It's probably the hardest region.
It's a tough region, Midwest.
Yeah.
But who all is in the Great Lakes? Because I know.
So there's actually 2 new teams. South Bend added a team.
Okay, South Bend Lions.
I'm not sure which one. So you have the Cincinnati Dutch Lions, the Dayton Dutch Lions. So there's 2 Dutch Lion groups.
I thought that they went to the OVPL.
They're talking about it.
Okay,
I know that. And then you got Flint. Oakland, which is out to actually Detroit. Oakland. That's the one that I was forgetting. Yeah. South Bend. I'm trying to think.
So you've got a pretty big division.
Pretty big division.
Yeah. We play 14 games, 7 home, 7 away.
Oh, cool. So they've upped that too. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But no, ultimately, people who know me as a coach, we want to win. Now, okay, I'm never going to sacrifice, how we play and stuff, and our philosophy that just goes, hand in hand with Hack and everything. So we're never going to sacrifice that. At the same time, and if we have a kid, maybe a 16, 17-year-old that needs minutes, we're going to give him minutes, so as well. But we're playing to win. Now here's what I know. You know it. There's going to be certain teams that are made up of entirely of 23, 24-year-old guys.
Absolutely.
Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks.
Is
so
what
fair
it is.
enough. And,
It is what it is.
It is. And what I would say is that's awesome because then it's a good test for some of our young players.
And
I'd rather play in those games than, again, a game that you win 7-0 that we're not going to learn anything.
And that almost reciprocates what we deal with some of the 2 teams. When we play Red Bulls 2 or whatever, they're almost in the same boat from the other side of it, right?
Yep.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, look. You have the Red Bulls done an amazing job with their 2 team.
It's a great academy. They've
Fantastic.
done a great job.
And then you have Sporting a little bit. They're really young, but that's their model. So it's like it's hard to knock either one. I know Sporting, their 2 team wants to win.
It just that hurt us. When I say us, I'm talking about the USL. When you remove a brand like Swell Park, and that's something that we're still. It's going to take time to get to the point. Or Bethlehem Steel, because Bethlehem Steel, for people that don't know, that is an iconic name in American soccer history, and we got to get to a point, I think. And the last question I'm going to ask before anybody else: independent soccer versus 2 soccer and stuff like that. I'm of the opinion that it's imperative that USL fills themselves at the championship level with independent teams. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree? I understand that might not happen, and I'm not trying to put anybody in a position where they have to. All I'm saying is that the independent identity of Louisville City, as opposed to the Bats, which I look at as Reds 2. Yeah. That's how I look at them. You can call them whatever you want.
It's
to me, I think it's
unique because when you have the 2 teams in, people say, well, look, the Monarchs won it, right? Red Bulls 2 has been great. They're so different. They look at it in different ways. Right. For Swoop, it might just be, look, it's development. Yeah. Now, again, I know they want to win, and it just is people, right? But their model is a lot different than the Monarchs. Look at the Monarchs. They had some older guys on their team, ex-MLS guys. Right. You know what I mean? It was different. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. To your point is,
and it's just
when you have an independent group, you're competing for a championship. You know what they're trying to do. Right. And it is to me it is kind of an odd thing because. You could play a 2 team on a given day, and it's a lot of their academy kids. Right. And then the next week, another opponent can play them, and now all of a sudden they have a bunch of MLS guys. So now from a pure competition side, you could argue, is it fair? Right. You know what I mean? That depending on when you play that 2 team, you could get, I'm going to say, no results easy, but you could benefit.
Right, and I understand it. It's just where we're at from a maturity standpoint at a national level. I understand that. Yeah. It's just, my hope is that we get to a point where USL is its own entity with its own teams, and if they want to have developmental stuff, if MLS wants to have developmental stuff in Division 3, fine, that goes on all over the place. Yeah. Even in Spain, like Athletic, they had, in Spain, you can have your developmental team in Division 2. Right. Yeah. So that's fine. It's just that Spain is so mature. There's literally hundreds of clubs. Yeah. And I'm just hoping that we get to that point someday. I want us to maintain our independence. Yep. I love what we've done
Yep.
here, and you know that to me is. I don't want to become a 2-team. I just don't. Is there anything you want to add to that, Derek? As far as any questions? Or
No, I think you hit it all.
Yeah.
No, just when we get around to closing thoughts.
Yeah. So first of all, before we have closing thoughts, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, I mean, look,
you have no idea how much we cherish what you're doing. Like I said, everybody that comes here, that's been here before, has been like, Mario, you got to meet Mario. So I'm glad that I have because the energy that
guys,
you
anytime. Seriously, I love talking the game.
Okay.
I love talking life.
and I hope
Yeah,
you've enjoyed what you know.
Oh, I
you-
love it. Like I said, man,
enjoyed this time.
And you guys, I hope you realize how important you are. And I'm not just saying LouCity to this community because, again, I always come at it from a father. I got
Sure.
4 kids who love you guys as fans, and they love the sport and they would go anyways. But they're dying to go hang out with you guys.
Well-
and they hang out a couple rows behind you guys and stuff like that.
Always welcome.
They can't wait for the stadium, and they talk about what you guys do. Part of our success is you guys, and I think part of why soccer is growing in this country is there's finally becoming a culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not just
Fans.
We needed it.
There's fans and then there's culture,
Yep.
and then there's two different. We can get into all those.
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
That stadium,
anyway,
the
so-
stadium's going to be a rager when we're in there.
So, parting thoughts. Do you have any that you'd like to share?
No, this has been
great-
just having you guys on Chad and then you following Chad.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Has probably been my favorite experience since we started doing
Right,
this because I grew up here. Like I've lived here, I played here, everything, and it's really important to me that people like yourself and Chad, who is a head coach here now, and all of these guys that I kind of grew up with and everything. It's really, really special to me to watch everything that's happening right now with the community and with the stadium and just everything. The last 5 years has been mind blowing to me. So just watching everything evolve and everything, but it's just you guys are really highly appreciated. And
No, I can't think. I mean, again, you guys are. I'm telling you, truthfully, from my end, someone who grew up in this country and was as a kid begging for. I mean, I used to watch indoor soccer with the LA Lasers.
oh God.
That was my
That's what
experience.
I'm hoping someday, like get yourself, me, and some of the other folks, a little longer in the tooth, to discuss that there was a soccer
let's do it.
culture
I would-
before MLS.
I'm a nerd.
You know what I'm saying?
So, truthfully, I'm a
So
soccer
am I.
nerd, and
I know I make these guys their
Yeah.
eyes glaze
Yeah.
over when I start talking about Giorgio Canali and
Oh,
those guys.
yeah.
And but they don't. I really think a show like that is beneficial because people have to understand that soccer wasn't invented in this country in 1986. You mentioned the 1990 college teams. 3 of those guys that were in the MLS team were from my hometown,
From Jersey,
from Kearney.
Carney. There you go.
And that's.
You guys know what 3?
Do you remember?
Come on.
Say it again.
What's that?
With
The three
3 guys from
the three-
Carney.
The 3 guys.
Oh
from
no.
John Harks, Tad Ramos.
Tony Miola.
As I was say Miola. Yeah.
So and those and Harks and Miola played on the same high school team. I mean, that's how good that team was.
You know
And they almost lost in the semifinal. That's how good. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just insane culture in Jersey, and it's important that people that are a little younger understand that. Not that we're
Get me
trying
on that
to.
show. I'd love to.
That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping we could do that. Is there anything you want to share before we start?
Just like Derek, I mean, I've grown up in Louisville, and the thing I've been thinking, the thing that I'm most looking forward to about this, there's no reason not to think that right now, within 10 or 20 miles of here, there's a little girl who's going to come up through this academy, play professional soccer at the highest level in this country, go on to represent her country, maybe win an Olympic gold, maybe win a World Cup. And it's been a really long time since there's been somebody like that in Louisville, about 50 years.
Right, and it's directly because of the actions that the folks that are employed by the team are taking. Is there anything else you want to share? I mean,
No, look, my aha moment. You said final thought. This is truthfully from the heart. I think hopefully all of us in this community can use soccer to just bring goodwill and just love on each other using soccer.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, I think it's so unique that we can do that. So I think with everything going on, sometimes take a soccer ball out, go to a park, kick it around, watch a game together, have a beer, have a drink. Cherish
so many opportunities now. We're gonna have 8 teams. All right, maybe not 8, but
I have one thing that I want to throw in.
Do it.
Before you guys start ending.
Do it.
And this is kind of I feel like someone is owed something because of the U23 team, and this is kind of a shout out. Eric Major.
Eric,
I
yes.
know
Yes,
that
Eric.
I know that we lost your favorite club. I know, and I know that you're very
Absolutely.
upset about that. Like I'm right there with you, buddy. These U23 games will not be the same without you there, buddy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that you come to them.
And if you're not there, you've got scurvy.
There you go. And
3 people get that, but it's funny.
and the last thing I want to share is literally what you choose to bring into your life and your spirit depends on you. If you want to absorb negative and you want to absorb the bad, you can. It's up to you. But I'm sitting here with 3 guys. Like I said, and it's been an honor meeting you. It really has.
I mean, this is
Okay.
This is cool.
But I'm sitting here with 3 guys that don't do that. And you make a choice every day. And I'm hoping that, if you watch this for, whoever tomorrow, make the choice to absorb positive. It's there. You just got to want it.
It's a choice.
You really.
Yep.
So, Mario, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
James O'Connor next Thursday. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Take it easy.
Night.